Wow, good Friday afternoon. It's a feel-good Friday. It is a red Friday here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you for the next 3 hours as we get you ready for a busy football weekend. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. So much to get to on the program today. We'll lead things off as we often do on Red Friday with our Chiefs' keys to the game against the Chargers coming up here in just a moment. We'll also get you our Big Chief picks and our winner and cover picks for the game. We'll also talk Chiefs at the bottom of the hour with Matt Derrick, our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider. Take a look at his thoughts on this matchup. See if he's as confident about this game as we are, or at least to speak for myself, at least as much as I am. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll get to our weekly Big 12 picks and get you an update on our Sports on 580 picks competition. Dan is in the driver's seat, and for the first time all year by multiple picks, 18-12 on the year. Very impressive.
I'm on a roll. What can I say?
I did the math the other day, and I can do it again pretty quickly right here, that if you assume you just get regular odds, minus 110 approximately on every game, because we haven't been keeping track of that, you for the year would be, if you just made a $10 bet on every pick, be $44 up. It's all right.
Yeah, not too shabby.
Over $400 up if you put $100 down on each game. Not too bad. Do not ask about mine. That is not something I'm going to disclose with the public. But we will get to our picks coming up at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. We've got What Is Wrong With You, weekend preview for college football, weekend preview for the NFL. May even get to a little bit of World Cup talk at the end of the show. The World Cup is coming up. What is the first game? A week from today? That's the first U.S. game, right? In the 25th?
No. That's the second game.
I think
the United States might play Monday.
That is something that we can certainly look up.
Probably.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah.
Monday at 1 o'clock, the U.S. will take on Wales. And then the 25th, they'll take on England. And then the 29th, they'll take on Iran.
Yeah, because that's the big deal for the American television audience is, it's Black Friday, and it's America versus England in soccer.
Going to be Black Friday for the Brits when we win. I don't know. We're probably not going to be Britain, I would guess. No.
No.
Got a chance against Wales? How's Gareth Bale doing?
That will be the match that probably determines whether or not the United States advances. If they draw and don't get humbled by England and beat Iran, they probably go through.
Which they should do in the third game.
Like, that's the path.
Okay.
Like, draw Wales, don't lose by a lot to England, and beat Iran, and I think you're through.
4-corner stall. Dean Smith style on Black Friday.
They are parking the bus, as they say.
Just keep it in the corner. Don't allow any attacks. That's one way or the other.
The old 10-1-0 formation.
So we will talk about all that coming up on the show today. Again, we'll find our weekly winner in What Is Wrong With You. We'll play Change My Mind this hour as well. It's all coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. We'd love for you to be a part of the show, as we always would. Always appreciate your input on the Big O Tires text line. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. You can also chime in on the comments section on YouTube. Sports on 580 is the YouTube account. We're inching closer and closer to 100, by the way. I think we're up to 92 subscribers now. So
hell yeah.
Appreciate all of you who have signed, well, not really signing up. It's a button. You press it once, and that's all you need to do. And it's free. So you go over to YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is our account. Subscribe. You can comment, watch all of our live streams. And the nice thing, too, not only can you watch them on YouTube, but if you subscribe to us, then it'll be right there waiting for you on your homepage. When you head to YouTube at 3 o'clock, you don't even need to go search for us again or type in the URL or anything. It'll just say 580 Sports Talk, date here, and you can just click right on it, and boom, you're right on the stream. So nice and easy. Head to YouTube, subscribe. Sports on 580 WIBW is the account. All right, without further ado, it is time to get to the NFL and the team I thankfully get to cover so I don't have to think about my own favorite team that sucks eggs. The Kansas City Chiefs, they are taking on the Los Angeles Chargers coming up on Sunday night. Yet another primetime game, so I hope you are ready for another long evening and a little more Chris Collinsworth in your immediate future. I will start with number one. This is mostly directed at special teams, but it's just sort of a general comment as well. Avoid the dumb mistakes in this game. Not being ready on the kickoff at the start of the game against Jacksonville, the fumble by Jody Fortson, various things going wrong with the punt team this year, missed extra points. These are relatively easy things that, as long as you avoid them, the Chiefs are going to be just fine in this game. What you don't want to do is give the ball back to the Chargers at your 25-yard line after muffing a punt or fumbling a kickoff or having a chance to go up 14-6, but it ends up staying a 7-point game because Harrison Butker misses an extra point. Very simple thing. Same thing goes offensively and, frankly, defensively as well. Bad holding penalties, dumb defensive holding, DPI, whatever ends up being. Just play, not saying stick to the fundamentals. I'm not asking for the football equivalent of the San Antonio Spurs here. I don't know who would be the Chiefs' Tim Duncan. But I am saying just play smart football. You can probably win this game without taking unnecessary risks. And you're probably going to be just fine offensively and defensively as long as you don't do anything especially dumb on special teams. So play smart football. Don't give away free possessions. Chiefs should be fine.
It has felt all season long like the biggest threat to the Chiefs has been the Chiefs, hasn't it? In games that have ended up being close or games that they have not won, the 2 losses they have this year, a lot of the things that have gone wrong in those games have been self-inflicted. So, yeah, avoiding those is going to be critical because this is the kind of team that you feel like can seize upon those mistakes. You want a team that isn't really able to air the ball out in their passing game, to have to work the ball down the field and not give them a short 25, 30, 35-yard field to work with. You want to cash in your own scoring opportunities and not give them life, especially on their home field. No question about that.
And if you look back to this past week, too, I mean, if against a team with more potency than the Jaguars, some of those mistakes come back and bite you a whole lot more. Now, that being said, the Chargers offense has not exactly looked all that potent recently anyway, but you do have a legit quarterback. In theory, they're going to have some better receivers out there, assuming Allen and Williams are both able to go as we expect them to. So you just want to avoid that in case, this is the week when the Chargers are playing like it's their Super Bowl, like their season is on the line. You want to avoid giving them some chances to rally.
So the first thing for me that is a key is the Chiefs have to get off to a better start. They've played 2 divisional games to this point. They played the Chargers at home on Thursday night, week 2, and then they had the primetime game against Las Vegas on Monday night.
It happens.
You know what both of those games had in common? Chiefs got down.
Yep.
Double digits in those games. And they came back to win them both. But they didn't score in the first quarter against the Chargers. They were down 10-0 before they got going. And, of course, against the Raiders, they got down 17-0 before they rallied back and eventually won that game by a point because they stopped a 2-point conversion and because Raiders wide receivers ran into each other late. On balance, on paper, Kansas City's a lot better than the Chargers, and they're a lot better than the Raiders, but they got buried early in those games because, as we've talked about with the Chargers, and I think it's definitely true for the Raiders this year too, these divisional games are like the Super Bowl for the rest of the AFC West. It's going to be like this when they play the Raiders on the return trip to Vegas. It's going to be like this when they play Denver late in the regular season. The Chiefs have been the top dogs in this division for so long that they have the target on their back. And those AFC West foes are going to bring it. They desperately want to knock the Chiefs off of their perch. And the Chargers already, over the course of this run of dominance for the Chiefs at the top of the AFC West, the Chargers have been the team to play them the toughest. But when you add in the desperation that the Chargers are in to avoid dropping to a 500 record 10 games into the season, they are going to come out firing. And the Chiefs had better match that, because if they don't dig themselves an early hole, if they don't have to climb out of a 10-0, 14-0, 17-0 kind of deficit, they just might get to cruise to victory in one of these games for a change.
If you were power ranking the other teams from the division and how well they've played against the Chiefs in the last, you're looking at close to a decade. Really almost the entire Andy Reid era at this point. It's Chargers 1, Raiders 2, Broncos 3, right?
Yeah, and even the Broncos have had moments where they've been competitive against the Chiefs, but they also haven't beaten them since Mahomes. No, Mahomes hasn't lost
before,
to him.
Yeah, before Mahomes.
And even before then, I think it's the winning streak goes back even further than just that first Mahomes start at the end of 2018.
I can tell you the Chiefs have won 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 in a row. I believe, unless this is 13 in a row. It's either 12 or 13 in a row.
That's so funny to me.
The last time they lost, the Broncos won at Arrowhead in 2015. That was a Broncos fourth quarter comeback to win. The Chiefs have won every single game since then.
Was that the one where Jamal Charles just inexplicably fumbled with 7 seconds left and the Broncos took it the other way for the game-winning touchdown?
Oh, that might have been that game,
I think
actually.
that was because it was a primetime game.
Yeah.
Thursday night, I think.
That might have been that game. That's good recollection about that. Yeah, it's been not even close. We had the number the other day, the Chiefs-Chargers rivalry, and how the Chiefs have won 5 of the last 9. Or no, I'm sorry, 6 of the last 9, but it's been fairly close in all of them. The Chiefs and Raiders, the Chiefs have won, 4, 8, 9 of the last 11 meetings. And you can actually go even further back than that. The Chiefs have beaten the Raiders in each of the last 4 decades. They have had the better record for the whole decade than the Raiders. That's hilarious.
That is very funny. So, again, my broader point summarized, that the Chargers are going to come out swinging. And for a change, the Chiefs need to be able to swing back instead of just kind of groggily waking up in the second quarter and being like, all right, I guess we'll win another division game, and then going out and doing it. I mean, that's all well and good. Wins are wins. But like, if they put their stamp on this game early, if they go out and put together a first drive touchdown or get a stop on the first drive, if they jump out to that 10-0, 17-0 lead, could be a bloodbath.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. 100% agree on that. My second key, and this is I almost felt bad putting these together today because I was like, man, I don't even know what to say, like what the game is going to hinge on. I don't really have an X factor in this game because I think the Chiefs are going to stomp them. But I said, let Isaiah Pacheco cook in the second half, really in the fourth quarter. The Chargers run defense, as you pointed out the other day, not good. It is, in fact, very bad. Jesse Newell also pointed that out in he doesn't call it the quick scout anymore since he moved from KU to the Chiefs, but in his pregame prediction for the Chiefs and Chargers, he also said the same thing. Hey, the Chargers cannot run the ball, and they cannot stop the run offensively and defensively, respectively. You don't want to take the game out of Patrick Mahomes' hands while it's still in doubt, while it is still up in the air. But if you get up 10-plus points in the fourth quarter, let Pacheco run it. Let him get 4 to 7 yards on every carry. I know they're not going to only do that, but we have seen some examples, including in divisional games in recent years, where the Chiefs have relied on, all right, we'll run the ball on at least first and second down. If it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, we'll run it again. If not, we'll do that quick little arrow route to someone. Honestly, it'd probably be Kadarius Toney in this game, given who the personnel will be at wide receiver. So let Pacheco continue getting in a rhythm. I don't care if he doesn't have more than 7 or 8 carries in the first 3 quarters. But if you're up in the fourth quarter against a bad run defense, exert your will a little bit, demoralize that defense, because late in games, that's what the run game does more than anything. It's just demoralizing, which is why last night's game was so bizarre. Why I know Derrick Henry was getting less than 3 yards carry for most of the game, but like that defense is already in a bad way. Why not just keep running it and bury them? That's what I would love to see the Chiefs do in this game. Be the physical team, be the aggressor late, and try to just pound them into submission to pick up the win. And the way Pacheco's been playing recently, I think that's a great time to do it.
Yeah, they showed flashes against Jacksonville of being a team that can be able to salt a game away with the running game. That is going to be so critical for them, I think, as they move forward. And I think that they will have an opportunity to do that against a team that doesn't stop the run very well in Los Angeles. My second key for Sunday is to keep it simple on defense. The Chargers give up the fewest sacks in the NFL. Justin Herbert's only been sacked 13 times.
That's wild.
This season. And it's not because he's particularly an escape artist as a quarterback. I mean, we're not talking like prime Russell Wilson avoiding pass rushers here. We're also not talking about a team that doesn't throw it a lot, because they do. It's a function of 2 things. Number one, their offensive line, despite some injuries, has played pretty well. I mean, Jamari Salyer has stepped in for Rashawn Slater and played as well as you would have expected Slater to play, at least numerically, in this season. But it's a function of an offensive line that has played well and a passing game that gets the ball out really, really quick. Generally, you don't sack quarterbacks who are throwing it to their running backs over and over again. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I bet Chad Pennington gets sacked a whole lot. Like, you're not getting sacked much when the ball is immediately out of your hand to Austin Eckler 2 yards from the line of scrimmage out in the flat. So that's what the Chargers are. And I have a hard time believing that they're going to be able to completely flip the switch on the identity of their passing game with the likely return of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to the lineup this week. Sure, they're going to throw some deep shots to Mike Williams. And he always plays well against the Chiefs. He'll probably haul at least one of them in. I would like to see the Chiefs try and match up McDuffie with Williams as much as they can, because I think it would be a really fun test of the rookie Trent McDuffie. But their passing game kind of is what it is. Like, other than Williams, they really don't have the ability to stretch you down the field vertically. It's going to be a lot of shorter stuff. So I think for the Chiefs, keep it simple on defense. Don't concern yourself with the exotic blitz packages, and don't worry about, oh man, we've got to get to Justin Herbert. No, you have to rally the ball and tackle Austin Eckler when he makes his 8th catch of the game for 25 yards. That's what you have to do. That is going to be the most critical element, I think, for the Chiefs, is keep the play in front of you and make sure that those short passes don't turn into big gains. I think that a composed and smart and simple defensive game plan should be enough against this Chargers offense.
By the way, you mentioned Chad Pennington's name.
Mm-hmm.
If his career average, and he started a lot of games in his career, 81 starts in 89 career games. His career average was 14.7 times sacked per year. This year, among qualified quarterbacks, that would be 26th in the NFL. In fact, qualified quarterbacks only go up to 25. And that would be Baker Mayfield, who's been sacked 15 times.
I'm glad I pulled a name out of thin air there, and it kind of worked.
Yeah, that was perfectly well done. He was the 2-time comeback player of the year.
I believe it.
That is wild to me. He was a decent quarterback for a long time. Let's get to our big Chief picks for today. I'm going to go with a name that I think we have picked. This might be the 6th time in a row that we've picked this name in a Chiefs-Chargers matchup. Certainly the 2nd time one of us has done it for this year, and it's a name that Mitch Holtis brought up yesterday when we spoke to him as well. Willie Gay. He might be your fastest defensive player. Well, one of them, at least relative to size, he certainly is. He is your sideline-to-sideline linebacker. That's usually a position that is tasked with what? Defending against the receiving running back. Well, who uses a running back as a receiver more in the NFL than the Chargers? Exactly nobody. We had the numbers when we talked to Matt Verderame on Monday, how often the Chargers throw to Austin Eckler. They're going to throw to him a lot. Get Willie Gay on him. And the nice thing about him having so much foot speed and so much lateral quickness is he can get there quickly. He can be on the hash and get outside of the number in a flash. So Willie Gay, this should be a 12 to 15 tackle kind of game for him, because they only ever run the ball a handful of times. He'll be in position to do that. And with the number of times they're going to throw to Austin Eckler as well, should be a lot of opportunities for Willie Gay to make stops in this game. He also is not too bad at picking balls off for a linebacker, so I would not be surprised to see one of those in this game too.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to create at least one turnover on Sunday. And
I would agree.
Willie Gay is as likely a source for that as anybody. My big Chief is a guy I was too chicken to pick as my big Chief last week. I'm going to go ahead and make him my big Chief this week. Kadarius Toney. I think he's going to have another solid game, particularly now that we know Juju Smith-Schuster is for sure out in the concussion protocol. Mecole Hardman obviously was placed on injured reserve yesterday. So the receiver group looking a little thin, but that leaves Kadarius Toney an opportunity to make another impact, not just in the short passing game, not just as a gadget player, but as somebody who can get open down the field as well. It sounds like he's doing a really fabulous job of understanding the playbook and understanding his roles and the routes and things like that. You can't read a piece or hear anybody talk about Kadarius Toney without them mentioning how smart he is and how fast he's absorbed things and picked things up. I think that is going to reflect itself on this stage. I think he's got a chance to have another big impact and maybe even visit the end zone again.
All right, let's get to our picks then. Who wins? Who covers? What's the over-under result?
So the line has fluctuated a lot this week.
A lot.
In this game. It opened at FanDuel as a 7-point spread in favor of the Chiefs. Chiefs were -7. That changed over the course of the week and got as low as 4.5, and that is where it currently sits. The line has dropped 2.5 points.
Is that because of the receiver health?
I think that's certainly part of it. like one of two things is happening when a line drops like that. Either there is some injury news that is expected to dramatically alter the game, or there's a lot of sharp money on one side. And I think it's probably a little bit of column A, a little of column B in this case, that you have a healthier Chargers receiver core, a banged up Chiefs receiver core is going to be missing their leading receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster. And I think there has been a lot of sharp money. A lot of the wise guys are on the Chargers this week. That's gotten the number down to 4.5. And I love the Chiefs to cover a 4.5 point spread, even though I do think the Chargers have the capability to keep it close. They're going to play the Chiefs tough. It's what they always do. I have the Chiefs 28-23 covering that 4.5 point spread, but I'm under 51.5, which is the current total.
I'm on the under with you as well. I'm going to go Chiefs 31, Chargers 17. I've been saying it all week. I think the Chiefs should roll in this game. 14 points, that is effectively rolling when you get to the NFL. Cover 4.5. I'm going to get on that spread ASAP before it moves again. I understand why the Sharps like the Chargers because they seem to always like the Chargers. Give me the Chiefs in this game. I think the Chiefs will roll with that number, and I think the Chiefs will win outright as well. We will preview this game even further with Matt Derrick coming up here in just a few minutes. But first,
I wanted to tell folks about options to play same-game parlays with our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. You can combine player props and game props within the same game to score even bigger payouts. Let's say you think the Chiefs are going to score a bunch of points. You can bet their team total. Let's say you think Kadarius Toney is going to score a touchdown. You can bet that as well. Combining props is how you create a same-game parlay, and those are just one of the reasons I love to bet with FanDuel. There's no feeling like nailing a same-game parlay bet, so lock in your bet today at FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're new to FanDuel, you can sign up today with my promo code Lucero for your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's promo code LUCERO. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issues non-withdrawable free bets. Expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
let's take a timeout. We'll play some Change My Mind coming up after this on 580 Sports Talk. We're back on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero with you. By the way, before we get to change my mind real quick, do you remember the story from the other day about Blake Martinez, the former Raiders, Giants, Packers linebacker who retired abruptly? Had, 15 tackles in a game, then retired 3 days later?
Yeah, played 90% of the snaps.
Well, we do have confirmation from the website Dexerto.com, which is a gaming news website. We can now confirm that Blake Martinez retired because of what he sold his rare Pikachu trading card for. Now, I hypothesized when we had that headline, he just sold a Pokemon card for $600,000, which was more than half of his base salary for the year. I wonder if he just said, I'm going to do that. Yes, that is what he apparently already had a side business.
Wow.
Like a storefront and everything where he just flips these rare trading cards. And that is indeed why he decided to retire from the NFL.
Hey, good for him.
Hey, one transaction and you've got more than half of what you were making already with no physical damage.
Yeah, nobody ever got a concussion trading Pokemon cards.
No, well, that'd be a wild story.
Yeah, unless you were doing it wrong.
I'll tell you that much. Let's get to a quick round of Change My Mind. Matt Derrick will join us in just a moment. Dan, change my mind. KU will begin conference play with no more than one loss in basketball.
It's hard to see more than one loss. I know they're going to go to Mizzou December 10th. That's going to be a rabid atmosphere, but I still would expect Kansas to be better and win. The only real sticky one, I think, for me is Indiana coming to town because they are big and they can challenge Kansas's young posts.
It'd be different than Duke because Trace Jackson Davis has been there for 14 years.
Yeah, they've got not just bigs, but veteran bigs, and I think that could make a difference. But that's really the only one that stands out to me as a I won't even call it a probable loss, but like closer to a coin flip. So yeah, I have a hard time seeing more than one loss for KU by the time Oklahoma State comes to town on December 31st.
The other, when you go to Atlantis, Battle for Atlantis, which starts next week, you're going to get North Carolina State, either Wisconsin or Dayton, and then one of USC, BYU, Tennessee, Butler. Those are all winnable games. Tennessee's beatable this year.
Tennessee lost to Colorado, who has also lost this year to Grambling and UMass.
Grambling, which is ranked 300th in KenPom. So, yeah, I think KU will begin conference play with no more than one loss.
Changed my mind. I'm still not taking the Titans seriously as an AFC contender. Even though they went to Lambeau, won last night. Ryan Tannehill had a monster game, probably as good a game as he's ever had. Still not buying the Titans. Changed my mind.
See, the Titans are so weird because, I would say on a binary of good or not good, I would say the Titans are a good team. I really would. But they're not close to where the Chiefs are. And I don't really think, at full strength anyway, the Bills are still far above them as well. So if you're not in that tier, I don't really think you're, and I mean, shoot, so they're probably in the same tier. I'd put like the Ravens and Bengals, maybe just one of those teams.
Sure.
And I think they're distantly behind. So they are, because it's clear Tannehill can have a big day, although you're also not going to see a dumber defensive coordinator than who they played against last night. I hate Joe Barry. Put him in prison and then put that under another prison. I hate him so much. So, yeah, I don't think I can change your mind on that one because I just don't think they're close enough to that top tier. If it was a closer gap, I think you can make the argument. I just don't think it is when you rely so much on the run game.
Yeah, it did seem like there was a lack of adjustments being made because it was very predictable. Like Derrick Henry would run for 3 yards on first down, and then play action would gain 25 yards on the next play.
Dumbass.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get you started.
Let's hire a guy who's had one defense ever that finished in the top 25 of DVOA, who is also the defensive coordinator for the 0-16 Lions.
Looking forward to him and Joe Lombardi being the coordinators for the Memphis Showboats of the USFL in the spring.
That would be too good for him. Unbelievable. We've got to take a break. Matt Derrick will join us next on 580 Sports Talk.
My name is Matt.
Let's go.
Let's go to Kansas City for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider as we welcome in our good friend Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com, where you can find the best coverage of all things Kansas City Chiefs. You can also find Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick. What's going on, Matt? How are you, man?
I am doing okay. Just getting the Chargers injury report here, and yes, we are all lined up, and I think you can probably expect Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to play, which I think we probably expected them to play anyway because it's the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, that's kind of been our entire storyline all week. Like on paper, the Chiefs are clearly the better team, just in general, and especially with how the Chargers have been playing as of late. But Dan's brought up the point, and I think accurately throughout the week, that, hey, this is kind of the Super Bowl for the Chargers. They're going to be up for this game. So I will ask you then, Matt, how much of an impact do you think Mike Williams coming off of several missed games due to injury and Keenan Allen in his first game of the year because of injury, how much can they actually impact this game?
Yeah, this game, it feels a lot to me like the 49ers game. I mean, in the sense that both teams were kind of in the same injury position and missing a lot of key pieces and having guys who were battling some things that circled that game as one to come back for. The 49ers, that was a game for them. They wanted to beat the Chiefs. I mean, certainly there was, for the veterans who'd been around, there was a little bit of payback from the Super Bowl, but they knew that was just an important game, and they tried to get everybody back. I think clearly in that case, there were some guys who weren't ready to be back, and I think it hurt them. This game could be maybe the same situation. I mean, the Chargers are without a lot of key pieces right now, offensively and defensively. With those two receivers, maybe it is going to be a case that they are ready to go, as they're not pushing themselves too hard. I know Keenan Allen certainly seems to be pretty primed to get back for this game. As long as they're not getting rushed back, maybe it's going to work out for them. But it's just hard to not look at this Chargers team and think that they are a bit outgunned and outmanned right now. But like Dan said, I mean, this is a must-win game for the Chargers. If they don't pull off a win here, the AFC West is gone. I mean, the Chiefs are going to win that, and suddenly their wild card hopes are serious doubt too.
I know they've been outmanned for much of the year, and Justin Herbert's been without some of his top targets. But what do you think, Matt, is going on with this offense? Because they're just awful to watch, and no team with a quarterback as dynamic as Justin Herbert should be this unbearable to watch on a week-in, week-out basis. I am not a fan one bit of their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi. I couldn't believe he got hired in the first place. What do you think is the reason why they have been struggling so much entering this week?
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly point to the injuries, but and even on the offensive line, I mean, they've had some injuries too. They've slowed them down a little bit, but it's hard not to point to the game plan and the strategy has not been a big reason. I mean, they just, Herbert's not pushing the ball down the field. They're not moving the ball in chunks. I mean, they just seem to be misfiring, especially compared to what they have been under Herbert the last few seasons. I think it's hard not to point to Lombardi and say that he's probably the source of the problem. They're just not, clicking. And that happens. I mean, sometimes a coordinator and a scheme just won't click with the talent that they have. And that's, I think, the frustrating and the odd part about the Chargers is that we know there's talent there. I mean, they've got nothing but talent on the offensive side in the skill position. Those are guys who have done it before, and they're still in their prime. So I don't think there's any reason for this to be an underachieving offense. There's something wrong, something amiss, and I think it's something more than just the injury.
And while we're talking about the Chargers offense being on the field for the Chiefs, how much of an impact do you think Frank Clark is going to make in his return to the lineup after missing, well, he had 3 weeks off because of the bye week, but missing the last 2 weeks due to the suspension? How much can he add in his first game back?
Yeah, I think he can add a lot. I mean, one of the things I was really impressed with that the Chiefs, were able to do with Clark out was that they played the run pretty well. I thought Frank had been playing the run pretty good so far this season, and that was something I was really concerned about. And then without Frank, I thought they had two really good performances against the Titans and against the Jaguars. Two really good rushing offenses. And honestly, I mean, you took out a couple of plays against the Titans where they kind of over pursued and just made some mental errors. And that would have been two just absolutely back-to-back dominating performances. And, and they did it without Frank Clark. They did it with, some different edge guys, not just Carlos Dunlap and Mike Dana, but Malik Herring's been, picking up. And Obviously, Karlaftis, I think, is developing at his own speed and own pace too. Clark being back just lets them go deeper in the rotation, and that to me is the big deal. If they can keep those guys fresh, not put too much of the workload on any one player, back off the snaps a little bit of maybe what Karlaftis has even seen, just keep him fresh. I think that's going to put this team in pretty good stead down the stretch.
Our guest is Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. He is our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs insider. Joins us every Friday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. You can find Matt's insight on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt, no McCole Hardman for the next 4 games, at least, as he is on injured reserve. And no Juju Smith-Schuster for Sunday either, as he will not clear concussion protocol in time to take the field on Sunday. Those targets have to go somewhere, and certainly the Chargers already very aware of what Travis Kelce can do, and I'm sure they'll devote more than one body to Kelce. So where are those targets going? Who stands to benefit the most in the passing game?
Yeah, I mean, and the Chiefs have a lot of targets. I mean, with the additions that they've had, I mean, Kadarius Toney coming in, and, they've got plenty of options. I would expect that Marcus Kemp will probably be active this weekend too, so you add him to the mix. Chances are, I mean, it's going to be a few different places. I mean, but I think you absolutely, for the Chiefs, you need Marquez Valdez-Scantling to step up. This needs to be a game where he really gets involved. You're able to, and I would be interested to see if maybe even just try to get a few things going for him early. I mean, we've seen it they do it with McCole in the past, of just trying to get a couple of plays going his direction to see if that jump starts him. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, Kadarius Toney certainly at this point looks like he's ready for a bigger load and can take some of the McCole Hardman snaps. I don't think that's a problem. I would expect to see him. Eventually, we're going to see him, I think, on more of the motion plays and the pop passes and the jet sweeps. I mean, those are just absolutely perfect plays for him. But I've been really impressed with how much Toney's been picking it up. I still don't think that he's in the ready for 60 snaps a game or anything. But he should absolutely be, I think, getting some targets. But MVS, I mean, that's a big one to me. I'm sure that with having 3 tight ends healthy this week, that's going to be a help. Fortson's a guy that I think you can get involved in the mix there too. But to me, it's MVS. That's the guys that really needs to step up this week.
Is it strange to you that we're not talking more about Sky Moore in this conversation and kind of in general this far into the season for the second round pick?
It still doesn't surprise me big time, just because I think that's indicative of just how hard it is to get acclimated in his offense to pick everything up. And I get, the natural question is, well, why does Kadarius Toney seem to be picking it up? I think that 1 year is a big difference. And I don't think there's also any doubt, and I think that even Sky Moore would probably have to admit this, Kadarius Toney is a different level of athlete. I mean, there was a reason he was a first-round draft pick. There's things that he can do. So, to me, it's not a big surprise. I mean, I had kind of targeted Sky Moore as being if he had a 400-yard season, I thought that would be pretty good. Right now, he's on pace for less than that, but it doesn't worry me. I mean, I still think that your year 2 was what you really wanted to circle with Sky. That should be the big year. I mean, remember too. I mean, coming from not a Power 5 level team, everything's going to be a little bit stronger. Guys are a little bit faster at this level. He's still learning things, and he's still getting acclimated. The Chiefs are asking him to do a lot of things he hasn't done before. So to me, it's not a big worry. And if anything, I think the Chiefs are going to continue to err on the side of caution with just not putting too much on his plate and then letting him develop and grow at his own rate.
Last week, we saw the best game in the young career of Isaiah Pacheco as he really stepped forward and seemed to kind of seize the RB1 mantle a little bit. He was the main option in the ground game and averaged over 5 yards a carry and that went over the Jaguars. How can the Chiefs maybe have some success in the running game against a Charger team that has struggled against the run this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there will be a temptation to go back to a bit of more of the running back by committee. And if we're going to take Andy Reid and some of the other coaches at face value, I mean, you're going to assume that getting only 4 snaps out of Clyde last week was not part of the plan, and that they're probably going to give Clyde a little bit more work this week. But I'm not sure I get too far away from Isaiah. His performance, especially after the fumble, the way he responded to that. And the Chiefs really, I mean, they fed him. I mean, there was no doubt. I mean, they wanted to make sure they got him back in there to get that fumble out of his mind. And the way and the approach was really impressive. Greg Lewis talked about it this week as far as, he told him not to get his head down, to get in there and just go right back in it and give it his best. And I think we saw that. I mean, I think that was some of the best running we've seen from Pacheco this season. That was a lot more of the north-south physical, hard-hitting, see the hole and hit it approach that we saw back in training camp that I just didn't see as much of in the first half of the season. That on Sunday is a glimpse of what Isaiah Pacheco can be. And if I'm the Chiefs, I mean, I would ride that for a while and see what happens. And if that means that Clyde's only getting a couple of drives a game, I think that's okay for now.
We're joined by Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. It's our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider. Make sure you're following Matt on Twitter at Matt Derrick, and head over to ChiefsDigest.com for all the best coverage of all things Kansas City Chiefs. Matt, speaking of the running game and how well Pacheco is playing, and I think Jerick McKinnon's had a very nice last few weeks as well, how much better do you think the running game needs to be as we get into the colder months, as we get into the postseason where you've got to be able to hang on to the ball and run out the clock maybe in some important games? How much better do you think this running game needs to be, and how much better do you think it can be as currently constructed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to come up with a better term than a lot, but I think it needs to be a lot better. I mean, as much as Andy Reid's offense is, built around the quarterback and this team is built around Patrick Mahomes, they won a Super Bowl largely because Damian Williams was running the ball effectively at the right time of the season. He had a stretch there for about 6 weeks where he was arguably one of the best running backs in the league in his performance. And that you need to be able to do that, especially in the cold weather, especially in the postseason. You're going to need to grind out some wins. That's when you need to have the run game. And that's why, I really do believe that the Chiefs need to find the guy that they're committed to. And if it's Pacheco, get him involved. Make sure that he's ready for a big role in the prime time. To a degree, Clyde's had his chance. So to me, a lot of it's going to be Pacheco, but yeah, don't overlook Jet McKinnon. I mean, I think it was pretty clear again this week, just the way the coaches talked about him, how valuable he is in the passing game, how important he is as far as pass protection goes. When it comes to the little things that a running back has to do and a lot of the dirty work that a running back has to do, they have a lot more faith in McKinnon than anybody else. So it's definitely going to be at least a 2-player backfield, if not 3. I still think 3 is too many. I just don't know if a lead running back can get into a rhythm in a 3 running back committee. I think it needs to be streamlined down, and if that's the case, I think Pacheco can handle it, but he needs to work now. And you're right. I mean, to me, it just needs to be more efficient. Don't think they need to run it more, just better if they want to make another Super Bowl run.
Sounds a little bit like college basketball in the NCAA tournament. Like, all right, we got to narrow down the rotation here. We've got to streamline it. We're only going to play 7, so we've got to figure out who those best 7 are. All right, Matt, let's get a prediction for this weekend's game, Chiefs versus Chargers. Chiefs right now are favored by 4.5. It's been upwards of more than a touchdown on the line earlier on in the week. Right now it sits at 4.5. Do you think the Chiefs can win by enough to cover this one?
I think it's going to be dicey. I mean, there's part of me that sees this and thinks that, the Chiefs just have too much muscle, too much firepower. They have had a lot of success in LA the last few years, that maybe they're just going to go ahead and put this one away early and it's not much of a race. But Chargers, they just play this team too tough. And defensively, they usually have a pretty good game plan. So I can't see a big win. I definitely think the Chiefs pull this one out. I'm going with the Chiefs 29-23, but that line really perplexes me. This is a game I would not bet on. I would stay away from it. But the fact that it gets just closer and closer to the Chargers really is intriguing to me.
All right, I've got to ask you before we let you go, Matt, because it is our favorite time of the year. Next week, this time, we don't have a show next Friday because of the Thanksgiving holiday, so we'll have to figure out what the schedule looks like. But we are just 6 days away from Thanksgiving. So, Matt, what is the spread at Shea Derrick going to look like this year?
Yeah, we are hosting the family this year. So that's when I'm not covering the Chiefs, I'm cleaning a house right now. So that's a lot of fun. I am punting to a degree on the turkey. There's a butcher's near us that smokes fresh turkeys. So I've signed up for that one. So we're getting a smoked turkey,
Ooh.
and then I'm doing all the fixings. So the in-laws are bringing over cold dishes, so that'll be like a cheese and vegetable plate. They'll do the cranberries because I hate cranberries and don't do cranberries.
Wow.
Olives, that kind of thing. But I'll handle the basics. Mashed potatoes, roasted sweet potatoes. Got a recipe for some green beans in the air fryer that I'm looking towards trying. Obviously stuffing. Yeah, I mean we're pretty classic and basic over here, but and I am going to bake once again my chocolate peanut butter Charlotte Royale.
Yes.
So it will be the peanut butter mousse encased in a dome of chocolate Swiss roll cake.
Oh, I'm so in.
Yeah, Dan, I don't know if you've seen a picture of this before. It looks incredible. Matt, we're gonna need some photo evidence once that gets served coming up on Thursday, okay?
I will definitely hook you up.
Matt Derrick covers the Kansas City Chiefs better than anybody and covers the Thanksgiving spread better than anybody, too. He does it over at ChiefsDigest.com. Follow him on Twitter as well, at Matt Derrick. We talk to Matt every single Friday for our Herman's Meat and Smokehouse Chiefs Insider. Appreciate the time, Matt. Thank you so much. And if we don't get to talk to you next week, then happy Thanksgiving to you and yours as well.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you. I am very thankful that I get to talk to you guys every week and even hear you on the radio and occasionally. You both are great. Thank you very much.
We are so thankful for Matt as well. That does it for the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. We've got our Big 12 picks coming up next. now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you up until 6 o'clock today. Thank you so much for spending some of your afternoon with us. If you missed any of the first hour, including our chat with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com, you can head on over to our website, 580wibw.com. Go to the podcasts tab, just hover over that, and then click on 580 Sports Talk. That is where you will get the hour-by-hour podcast breakdown of the show. We've got plenty more to get to on today's show and in this hour, including our weekly Big 12 picks and our update on our Sports on 580 football picks competition. We've also got What Is Wrong With You. We'll take a look at the NFL weekend still to come. It is all coming up here in the immediate future on 580 Sports Talk this afternoon. You're welcome to chime in and be a part of the show on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. And you can also comment on YouTube as well. Sports on 580 WIBW is our YouTube channel. You can comment. We would love for you to subscribe. You can just admire and watch as we are just chilling in the studio, bringing you some sports talk today.
You can see in what interesting ways our mouths move as we talk.
By the way, we've got a comment here in regard to something we talked about at the end of last hour with Matt Derrick. Our pal Vance on the YouTube comments says, you have to share Matt's pie recipe with us, the Charlotte Royale recipe. Did you look up what this looks like?
No, I have not.
It looks unbelievable. He made this, I think it was last year, because we always talk about food with Matt. Always love the Thanksgiving spread. And this dessert looks unbelievable. And he made one, and I think he said it was pretty good the last time he made it. It looks incredible. We'll get a recipe next time we talk to him. I'll have to hear how it goes, too. But I'm expecting a text or a tweet on Thursday to see how this year's turns out.
I need to see it.
Yeah, it looks unbelievable. Do you guys have a specific Thanksgiving? We can talk more about Thanksgiving next week. But do you, like your family, or I guess you and your now wife, do you guys have like a traditional special thing you guys have at Thanksgiving?
So for many years, we have been going, my side of the family has been going to Woodland Park, Colorado, where there's a restaurant. And my aunt and uncle owned a bed and breakfast there for many years, and a restaurant that goes along with it. We've been going to that restaurant, Woodland Park, gosh, long as I can remember. I mean, at least 20 years, probably further back than that. And it was where I would always go. I was a kid, and then on through college. And when I could make it back in my adult life, and usually I could, it got a little harder to do that while I was living out here.
Yeah.
So my uncle passed away a couple of years ago, and my aunt has sold the restaurant, but we still have it in possession. And so this is going to be the last one at the restaurant. So it was pretty important to me to make it out this year. So that's what my wife and I are going to do. But it's a really neat restaurant in the mountains, and they serve a wonderful Thanksgiving spread, rolls and soup and salad and all the trimmings and all the things that you expect, and delicious dessert. And it's just a neat way to get the family together. And that's always been my favorite.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We haven't really, Abby and I, developed like a specific dish or anything that we've done. I mean, the last couple Thanksgivings, it's just been the two of us. So we've made a full spread and have had, 2 weeks worth of leftovers, but I don't think unless I'm forgetting something, I don't think we've come up with like a specific thing. Last year we made little individual not pumpkin, but like individual pies. That was our dessert. That was really good. That was a creative idea she had. But yeah, we haven't quite gotten to the specific traditional like specialty meal as of yet. Maybe this year will be the year for that. Let's get to our picks for the week. A bunch of Big 12 action to get to, including KU and K-State. We will start, though, with our picks for our Sports on 580 weekly football picks competition. Head over to 580wibw.com. Right now, the lead story on the front page of the website, you can see the picture of all of us, myself, Dan, Jake, Fulton, all of us, and just click on that. You'll get the link to this week's picks, and the standings are records for the year. Dan is in first, 18-12 on the year. Fulton is in second. He's 2 games back, but still on the plus side, 16-14. With a small sample size, that's probably at least breaking even, close to breaking even. Jake and I are both under 500. He's a half game better than me. He's 13-16-1. I am 13-17. My 5-6, or 5 out of 6, 5-1 2-week stretch feels like a long time ago now. It has been all downhill since that stretch. My picks for the week, I've got 2 NFL games and 1 college game. A reminder for you, the rules of the competition, you get 3 picks. It's at least 1 NFL and at least 1 college. So you can do 2 of one of the other. And at least 1 spread and at least 1 over-under total. So you can do 2 spreads, 1 total, 2 totals, 1 spread. Doesn't matter. It has to be at least 1 of each. So my 1 college game, this is my best bet for the week. I'm taking K-State minus 7.5 against West Virginia. That offense has been just clicking. Clicking doesn't even quite describe it with Will Howard in the game since he took over partway through the TCU game, obviously against Oklahoma State when he had to come in last week as well. It's humming. West Virginia is in a state of flux. I know they're coming off of an emotional, tough win against Oklahoma. That game sucked, and K-State is way better than Oklahoma, so I'll take the Cats on the road in that one. My 2 NFL games, I've got the Giants by 3 over the Lions, and I've got the Jets-Patriots under 38.5. That game could get big gross.
I think it could too. I actually have that as one of my NFL picks this week. My lone college pick this week is TCU minus 2.5 against Baylor. The line is a real head scratcher. I just don't think Vegas watched the same Big 12 games as I did last week. I don't think Vegas has had a real good handle on the Big 12 all season, to be completely honest with you. Famous last words. I feel like I know the Big 12 better than Vegas does.
It's true. But in leagues where it is way more competitive and week to week, things are so wacky and they don't, the results haven't really followed the computer models. Because if they had, Texas would be winning the league right now or would be a clear second. Well, they are obviously not. So in a year where things have been kind of off and the models have not predicted games very well, I think that's fairly understandable.
I've turned a tidy profit on the Big 12 this season, and I'm going to stick with that with TCU minus 2.5 against Baylor. I know Baylor famously has been a stumbling block for teams seemingly destined for undefeated seasons at this specific time of year in the Big 12's history, and I won't say too much more about that because I know there are some K-State folks cringing when I bring that up. What was the running back's name? Shock Linwood? Was that him?
Yeah.
I think that was him.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
I haven't heard in a while.
Anyhow, TCU minus 2.5 against Baylor. In the NFL, I have the Patriots laying 3.5 against the Jets. They have won 13 straight meetings against the Jets, and Bill Belichick is just going to make Zach Wilson's life absolute hell. I think the Patriots, even though their offense isn't exactly great shakes themselves, they beat up the Jets at the Meadowlands. I think they'll win at home comfortably. So I'm laying the 3.5 there. And then I'm riding the Broncos unders until those wheels fall off. Raiders, Broncos under 41.5. I know the Broncos scored a season high 23 points against the Raiders in Vegas earlier this year. That was a Bronco team that was healthy. This one is not.
Yeah, they have on their list of will not plays, they're starting fullback, 2 starting wide receivers, a starting corner, and a starting linebacker. They will also potentially not have linebacker Baron Browning, offensive lineman Tom Compton, and actually 2 other offensive linemen as well.
Yeah, their offensive line is a mess right now.
Big time.
Even though the Raiders' defense isn't particularly good, that offensive line is so bad that I just don't think Denver could move the ball.
Let's get to our picks for the Big 12 in particular. And again, you can chime in with your thoughts on any of these games, either in the comment section on YouTube, Sports on 580 WIBW, or you can hit us up on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. We'll start with our local teams as usual, and we'll start on the plus. K-State at West Virginia. Cats are favored by 7.5 on the road. I gave you my pick for this game. I think K-State's going to take care of West Virginia. Mountaineers, again, had the tough win last week over Oklahoma, a bad Oklahoma team. That game sucked. Against a better team that wasn't playing such a grotesque game, I think West Virginia probably gets rolled last week. That includes against a team like K-State. I think the Cats go in, take care of business, win by 17 points, and then move on to the Sunflower Showdown the week after with a great chance to make it to the Big 12 championship game.
If there has been a fair criticism, I think maybe the fairest criticism of the Chris Kleiman era in Manhattan, it has been that at times against teams that Kansas State is much better than on paper, the focus has slipped. That has cost them, I think, earlier this year against Tulane. I think that cost them at times the last couple of years. I think Arkansas State in the COVID year is an example. If you want to throw out everything that happened in the COVID year, though, I don't blame you. But I think that has been a criticism that is a fair one of Kansas State. Now they go to Morgantown against a West Virginia team that they're better than, but has also played a lot better at Milan Pusker Stadium than they have outside of their own home turf. That being said, I don't see that happening this time around because there is an opportunity that is so close for Kansas State to get that championship opportunity.
Mhm.
These two games are like playoff games for K-State. That's kind of how they have to view them. This game and the next week, the Sunflower Showdown, these are playoff games. If Kansas State wins them both, they make it to the championship game of the Big 12. And so I think with that opportunity ahead of them, with the stability of knowing that it is the Will Howard show on offense, I expect them to click. I expect them to score plenty. And I expect West Virginia's passing game to be throttled by K-State's pass rush and the excellence in their secondary, even without Kobe Savage. I do think Kansas State wins that game, and I will lay the 7.5.
The ultimate way for KU to really come out on the upper hand of the rivalry, or come out with the upper hand in the rivalry this year, would be to lose to Texas this week and then beat K-State next week to keep K-State out of the Big 12 championship game. Jake's been clamoring all year, at least since we found out KU was decent, for the Sunflower Showdown to mean something. Well, it would certainly mean something in that case, because if KU wins this week and K-State wins, next week does not matter. K-State is in the Big 12 championship game, which with a week to spare would be pretty darn cool for this K-State team.
For sure.
As for KU, they are 9.5-point dogs at home against Texas. It's going to be cold. That seems like something that'll favor the running game, which sounds like Texas might be able to put up plenty of points with Bijan Robinson. I've heard some whispers that is not going to get close to a sellout for KU. That is the prevailing rumor right now on social media. We will see about that. Hopefully it is a decent enough crowd. I think KU can score in this game. I do. I don't know what they're going to do defensively, though. Even if Quinn Ewers isn't good, which, I mean, he has been so erratic recently, even if he turns the ball over once or twice, I think KU is going to need to score on every turnover it gets and get a little luck in the running game as well, because those big boys up front for Texas on their offensive line, the way they've been blocking, the way Bijan Robinson just is as a football player, that's not a good matchup for KU at all.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning. I'd feel a lot better if I knew for sure who was going to be under center for that first snap. Is it going to be healthy Jason Bean? Is it going to be Jalen Daniels making his emotional return? Like, if I knew either of those things were true, I might be inclined to say, yeah, at home, KU can cover a 9.5-point spread. But with that uncertainty, we don't know how close to 100% Bean is. We don't know if it's going to be Daniels. It might end up being Ethan Vasco in his first start, and I couldn't bail on that line and take Texas fast enough if that were the case. I do think, though, that Texas is just a little too much man in the trenches both ways, and that they should be able to press that to their advantage. That being said, other than the first half against K-State, they haven't been a great road team this year. And so there is an opportunity for KU to jump up and bite them early and stay in this game throughout the day, again, depending on the quarterback situation. But in the end, I think it's going to be too much Bijan Robinson, too much of that Texas ground game. I just think they're too physical and too big up front for Kansas right now.
The one saving grace for KU keeping this game close, I think, KU is 7-2-1 against the spread this year. Last week was just the second time all season KU has not covered a spread. That's pretty impressive, gotta say. That has not been the case for a long, long time for KU. Other games from the Big 12 this weekend. We'll go through them in chronological order. TCU at Baylor, the rivalry. I know you've got TCU. I'm going to go TCU as well, but this rivalry is weird, man. They play weird games between these two teams. Faces change. I don't know that the result will. I'm going to take TCU. I would be fairly surprised if they won by anything more than like 3-6, though. Baylor just knows how to defend this team. And it was, if you want to go back to 2014, it was Baylor beating TCU that kept TCU out of the postseason. And Baylor also lost the game. They both got left out. They were 5-6 in the playoff, not the whole postseason. This is a weird game. They play weird games. I'll take TCU, but I do think it'll be close.
End of the day, it comes down to, I just don't have a lot of faith in Blake Shapen and that Baylor offense. And I think TCU is going to score. I think TCU has a chance to make plays down the field. K-State was making plays down the field. Ben Sinnott was mossing dudes. I'm pretty sure TCU has some playmakers that can do the same to Baylor secondary. And if you ask the Bears offensively to keep up, I don't think Blake Shapen can do it. So their best bet is to keep that game gross, to keep it low scoring, to keep it physical, to be able to run the ball effectively, get to 3rd and 2 and convert those over and over again, and keep it in a really low scoring fashion. Because if it gets high scoring, it becomes a track meet. Baylor absolutely can't keep up. I think there are more paths to victory for TCU in this one than there are for Baylor. That's why I'm picking the Horned Frogs and feel comfortable laying that 2.5, because like you said, I mean, you get inside of 3 points, you're basically picking a winner, and that's what I'm doing here.
Texas Tech at Iowa State at Jack Trice Stadium. Clones favored by 3.5. I know they're at home. That's a tough place to play. Weather's probably not going to be pleasant. I'm taking Texas Tech, and I'm not thinking twice here. I don't trust Iowa State further than I can throw them this year.
Everyone is passionate about different things. You are passionate about Raising Cane's chicken fingers.
Correct.
I am passionate about lots of things in my life as well. Bad baseball. I am passionate about bad baseball. Matt Campbell, the head coach of the Iowa State Cyclones, is passionate about losing games where the spread is this close. They are 5-17 all time under Campbell, straight up, in games where the point spread is within 3.5 one way or another.
That's awful. That's truly, genuinely
really
awful.
bad. And when you get to like 22 games, that's essentially 2 full seasons worth of evidence that when the chips are down, that's not the side to back. So I do think Texas Tech is not only going to cover 3.5 point spread, I think they're going to win this game. I think they're more explosive on offense. I think they play harder. I think it could end up being a pretty low scoring game, but somebody's offense is going to have to make a play to win. It ain't going to be the one quarterback by Hunter Deckers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just think Texas Tech's a better team in general. I had a friend text me the weekend Iowa State and Oklahoma played. And he had seen that I had entered on an app that I was betting the under for the game. And he texted me a couple minutes later and says, awful bet. This says over, just written all over. And I said, have you watched Hunter Deckers play this year? And he said, no, I just have a feeling it's the Big 12. I'm like, okay, well, you clearly have not watched the Big 12 all year. He lost that bet, by the way. And like, I've just thought about that constantly. Like, how could you ever bet on this team? How could you ever bet on this offense to do anything? They stink. If it wasn't for the worst offense in America being in the same state, I feel like more attention would be on, hey, Wonder Kid Matt Campbell's offense is awful. It sucks. That is not a fun team to watch.
And it's not his fault. His offensive coordinator, Tom Manning, is not good at his job, and I got to believe will be replaced after this season is over.
He's college Joe Lombardi. Even
though he and Campbell are tight, they're sock tight, I still don't know how you don't make a change because, that offense is just a clogged toilet.
If Chris Kleiman can fire his best friend as his offensive coordinator, Matt Campbell can fire Tom Manning. He better be able to anyway. Otherwise, they will both be a coach and coordinator at Nebraska next year. Anyway, I've got Texas Tech. I'm not even thinking twice about that one. Final Big 12 game, Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. Why are they playing Bedlam in the penultimate game of the season? Why? That doesn't make sense. Play it rivalry week. Play the rivalries in rivalry week.
Right?
Ridiculous. Oklahoma's favored by 7.5.
Why?
Yeah,
what has Oklahoma done to show that they deserve to be a 7.5 point favorite over anybody? I know there are some questions at quarterback for Oklahoma State, and they weren't exactly convincing in beating Iowa State last week.
No.
But if they go back to the Oak for Spencer Sanders, I think they cover that spread handily. Although the caveat here is it's Bedlam.
And Oklahoma owns it.
Yes, Oklahoma, death, taxes, Oklahoma winning Bedlam. What is it? Oklahoma State gets one a decade on average?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. They lose. I think the winning percentage for Oklahoma in this rivalry is something close to 90%.
Oklahoma leads the all-time series 90-19-7.
Okay, yeah.
Oklahoma State has not won back-to-back since 01-02. I mean, I feel like you have to pick OU. OU might win, but it might be within 7.5 points. Yeah, I'm taking Oklahoma State. And the other thing, too, this game means way more to Mike Gundy than it means to anyone else. He might call his magnum opus offensive game this week.
He really might. But no matter who's the quarterback.
Yeah, no matter who. We've got to get to a quick break. First, any other games around college football you've got your eye on this week?
You know, it's going to be a really fun week in the Pac-12. USC, UCLA is going to be a banger. Utah, Oregon is going to be a lot of fun, too. There's some rumors that Bo Nix might not go. Even if he doesn't, I expect Oregon and Utah to be a points fest. The total on that one is only 61.5. Feels a little low to me. I might take the over. I might have already taken the over, in fact, with our friends at FanDuel. So I think both of those games are going to be rip snorting good times in the Pac-12. That's the conference to watch this week.
Yeah, that's going to be a really fun game. Man, you get two of the best games of the entire schedule back-to-back. Plus, that is the true playoff eliminator in at the Rose Bowl, too, USC at UCLA, because USC loses, the Pac-12 is done for playoff chances. Yep. They still cling to some hope if USC gets the win there. Let's take a break. We've got our final What Is Wrong With You of the week coming up after this quick commercial here on 580 Sports Talk. It's time to find our weekly winner in What Is Wrong With You here on 580 Sports Talk. Declan Quinn, the middle-aged man from Wisconsin who committed fraud, came up with a brand new identity as a former Irish soldier, scammed some residents in Florida into becoming their HOA president, and then stole $17,000.
Also broke the Florida Pawnbroker Act, pawned some items worth $1,000 using a fraudulent identity.
I love that detail so much. Two news stories today. We'll see if anyone can take down our reigning champ. What do you have, Dan?
We have a very simple story from Tacoma, Washington, where at 2:43 a.m. on Thursday, a man with a knife tried to steal a car from a victim in the 1700 block of South J Street. There was one big problem. The car's battery was dead. That's why it was pulled over to the side of the road, and the guy was standing by his car. Officers took the man into custody after a short foot chase and then gave the victim's vehicle a jump start so that the victim could get home. Tried to carjack a dead battery car.
This is in the same family as the story we had a couple years ago where a guy tried to carjack a trained professional MMA fighter and then just got his ass beat.
Right.
You better make sure you're going to be able to get away if you're going to carjack them.
I don't know if I could ever possibly be more blasé than if I'm standing next to my car that will not function because the battery is dead, and somebody comes up to me wielding a knife, like, give me your car or your life. All right, bet. You want my wallet too? Just making sure you got everything you need, buddy.
Yeah, you wait here. I'll go get us some help. That's incredible. My story is going to take us to the state of Florida and Miami International Airport. If you had a 3-hour flight and you had to turn around 40 minutes into it, how mad would you be?
Oh, incandescently upset.
Oh, well, you're going to love our What Is Wrong With You today then. When a passenger's misunderstanding on a flight led to a 3-hour flight turning around 40 minutes in before restarting to its eventual destination.
Oh.
Flight 3152 on Spirit Airlines, so you knew this was going to be terrible anyway, is a regularly scheduled flight from Miami to Boston. And yesterday, well, earlier this week, the departure took off on time at 6 a.m. with a 3-hour flight window anticipated. The airplane was up to about 2,000 feet above ground when a passenger thought they saw smoke coming from the overhead lockers. That passenger yelled, "Fire!" Dan, I don't know if you've ever been on an airplane before.
I have.
That's not smoke. That happens a lot. That's just condensation,
Right.
emanating from the overhead compartments. The crew, out of an abundance of caution, turned around and headed back on approach to Miami. Getting back to the runway less than 40 minutes after departure, they had to check the aircraft, found no sign of fire, then took off again at 7:45, landing safely in Boston just after 11 o'clock. Spirit Airlines did have to issue a statement saying there were no mechanical issues on board. It was just the air conditioning system. We wanted to make sure everybody was safe. You got 40 minutes into a 3-hour flight and you had to turn around.
Like, so he yelled fire and they were like, oh, he must be right.
Whoops. Uh-oh.
Turn it around. Like, they didn't bother to check and see if maybe it was a fire.
It is important in this day and age. You know, they say if you see something, say something. I did that once. I was much younger. I think I was in high school probably. I saw a box in my overhead on a flight. And I was like, this is weirdly labeled and no one's sitting next to me. Like, this seems odd. So I told the flight attendant, I was like, hey, are we all good over here? She's like, oh yeah, that's emergency equipment. You're fine. Like, that's what you do. You alert someone else. You don't just yell fire.
Yeah, no, you absolutely don't do that. Because then you have a plane full of panicked people instead of just you.
And then you get 15 minutes back and you're like, wait a minute, there's no fire? That's just the air conditioning. Oh, gotta go all the way. Sorry.
Well, yeah, they could afford the 40 minutes to get back to the original place. They didn't have to do it like an emergency landing somewhere.
Unbelievable.
No, man, I'd be so upset. You got to handle that better. If you're the passenger, flag down an attendant, a flight attendant. Say, hey, I'm a little concerned about that air I'm seeing. Is that smoke? Is there by chance a fire? And they might be able to say, actually, no, sir. That happens every time you are on an airplane. Everything is fine.
That's on site.
Relax. Here's your complimentary biscotti, and please enjoy the in-flight movie.
The other thing, well, this is Spirit, so they would cost you about $50.
Never mind. Yeah, here are your complimentary goldfish pretzels that expired 2 years ago.
That are for some reason labeled as being for Southwest Airlines. I just don't how do you look at that guy on the way back? If that's the guy sitting next to you, you're just mean mugging him the whole time, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I want a new seat. I refuse to sit next to this man who just made us 2 hours late. Who's your winner today?
Man, both of these are really good, but I got to go with the guy who tried to carjack a dead car.
That's very funny.
It's so funny.
That is very, very funny. I will join you in that, but I think Declan Quinn runs the rack this week
again,
and advances on.
From Monday to Friday, the idea of a middle-aged Wisconsin man affecting an Irish accent for an untold amount of time. Who knows how long it took to gain these people's trust? Convicted felon from Wisconsin in his mid-50s, deciding I'm going to start a new life as Declan Quinn, an Irish army soldier. And
his accent probably wasn't any better than that one.
No, I'm sure it wasn't.
That is our weekly winner, Declan Quinn, the Wisconsin fraudster, here in What Is Wrong With You. I am taking off. I am headed out of here. I'm on my way to Kansas City for some Washburn men's basketball against Rockhurst tonight. Dan's got you the rest of the way, previewing the NFL weekend, college football weekend, little high school football sub-state preview as well, among other things. It is all coming up as we continue on this Friday edition of 580 Sports Talk.
$4:39 on 580 Sports Talk. Friday edition. Glad you're spending the final day of the work week with us here on 580 Sports Talk, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, youtube.com/@sports on 580 if you want to watch the live stream. It's a little more lo-fi when there's only one of us around by necessity. We do not have the cool graphics that you might commonly see. So what you get instead is a sign that says "We'll be right back" that I hand wrote. People on the video stream are seeing it right now. But we are back right now. We're live. We got a segment to do here. Check us out on the Big O Tires text line. 785-272-9429 is the number on the Big O Tires text line. 785-272-9429, or leave a comment on the YouTube page. You can do that as well. Leave a comment in the chat. We love to interact with you in any of those forms or fashions. Again, Brendan is out. He's got to go to Kansas City tonight. Washburn men's basketball taking on Rockhurst. Coverage will join in progress following Washburn women's basketball tonight over on Classic Country 106.9. Ichabod women are in action at home tonight at Lee Arena. Washburn men are on the road. So it's me for the next hour and 20 minutes or so, and plenty of good stuff still coming up on the program. Obviously in the 5 o'clock hour, Blue Dot of Kansas headlines. I gave you my best bets for the weekend. They've been winners lately, so I'm going to give you some more winners, I hope. We might get into some World Cup. We might get into some high school football. We'll definitely get into some high school football. All that and more coming up in the 5 o'clock hour of the show. But right now, something we've been doing throughout the season here in this 4 o'clock hour, taking a look ahead to Sunday and the NFL Sunday slate for the upcoming week of action. Week number 11 got started last night. Titans took it to the Packers 27-17. Huge night for Ryan Tannehill. In no way, shape, or form the kind of game I thought it was going to be. I felt like it was going to be a Derrick Henry game, and it's not as though he didn't make an impact, scored a touchdown, had over 100 all-purpose yards. But Ryan Tannehill, boy, 280-some passing yards last night. He was tremendous. And Titans go to 7-3, which would mean that were the Chiefs to lose, then they would have the same record as the Titans in the AFC. And potentially that would throw a big wrench into the race for the top seed in the AFC if the Titans are still part of it. Again, they're in a terrible division. They should win all the rest of their division games. But I'm still not taking them seriously as a contender. I just can't do it. I can't get there with a team coached by Ryan Tannehill. They are so beaten up already. And the fact that they're playing good football with so many key injuries is a testament to how good a coach Mike Vrabel is and how much he gets out of the guys he has. But as the season wears on, you maybe lose some of those top depth options. Guys get worn down. We'll see how much that team has in the tank. I don't consider them at this point a real threat in the AFC. I can't get there yet. But hey, if they're sitting at the end of the year 13-4, maybe they sneak the top seed away from somebody like the Chiefs or the Bills. That's why it was really important the Chiefs won that game with no Ryan Tannehill at home, because it gives them a very valuable tiebreaker over the Titans that right now they don't have with the Bills, obviously. So that was last night. Coming up for your Sunday, if you are within the sound of my voice, you get the local channels. I believe it's the same for everybody who might be hearing us right now, at least terrestrially. I cannot speak for those who might be streaming the show, living in a different state, living in a different time zone. I am no help for you there, but 506sports.com is always there for you. That's where I found out which games are going to be on TV a few days before I actually sit down to watch the NFL on TV. And 506sports.com says we've got 3 games coming up. Only 1 game in the early window and a late doubleheader, which is kind of the reverse of what it normally is. Usually, you get 2 early games and then a nationally televised game in the late window. That is not the case this week. We get 2 games on CBS, 1 Fox game, and 2 games in the 3:25 Central Time window, as opposed to where we normally get 2 in the noon window. Our only early game that we will get to see televised locally is the Jets and the Patriots. A lot of us in the 580 Sports Talk, the Sports on 580 picks, have some form of action on this game as one of our 3 picks. There are a couple of unders being selected, including by Brendan, going under 38.5 points. I am laying 3.5 with the Patriots in this game. New England has beaten the Jets 13 consecutive times. It's personal for Bill Belichick in this rivalry for a whole host of reasons. And I think New England, despite the difficulties that they have had on offense this year, will generate enough and really pummel the Jets defensively. They made Zach Wilson go home and cry in the car the last time these 2 teams played this year at MetLife Stadium. With New England at home, I expect it will be another victory, 14 straight for the Pats in the series. So give me New England laying that 3.5. The rest of the early window, Carolina at Baltimore. This is the biggest spread of the week, according to our friends at FanDuel. Baltimore is a 13-point favorite in this game. That is very easy to understand if you've watched even 1 second of Carolina Panther football. I know they are coming off of a win their last time out, but I don't think they're going to Baltimore and winning. I think the Ravens are, they're the team that nobody really talks about in the AFC race, right? Like everybody, Buffalo and Kansas City, everybody agrees those are the top tier. And then Tennessee's getting a lot of attention because of how they're winning, and Miami is getting a lot of attention because they're kind of the new thing and how they're winning, scoring a bunch of points. And Cincinnati's the reigning AFC champs, so they get plenty of attention too. And the Ravens get lost in the shuffle. But that's still a dangerous team to me. And I think they've gotten better on defense with the addition of Roquan Smith. I think it's a really good Ravens team. And I don't think they're going to have any trouble with Carolina on Sunday. Jeff Saturday will try to go to 2-0 as a head coach, as he and the Indianapolis Colts host the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles, 7-point favorites on the road in this game. I would expect a bounce-back performance from the Eagles. Let's face it, the only reason they lost last week was they turned the ball over 3 times, and at really inopportune time and place for those turnovers. Now, I know they actually turned over 4 times. They had the fumble on the pitchy woo-woo that turned into a touchdown in the last play of from scrimmage of the game. But the 3 turnovers they committed over the course of the game were very critical. And one of them never should have happened at all because Dallas Goedert got face masked. So I don't think that was a red flag performance in any fashion for the Eagles. I think they're going to be just fine, and I suspect they will bounce back and handle the Colts. Colts are a great story coming out last week. All Jeff Saturday did really was just say, hey, let's put an actual NFL quarterback in there again. Let's give that a whirl, see how that goes. And that was good enough to beat the Raiders, who are terminally unserious. But I do not think they can hang with the Eagles. Washington is at Houston. I have nothing to say about that game. Absolutely nothing. Washington's a 3-point favorite. I have nothing to say about Commanders-Texans. It is one of the worst on-paper matchups of the season. Rams at Saints. Saints are 2.5-point favorites at home. Man, the Saints have not been very convincing all season long, and they are still favorites against the defending champions. That should tell you all you need to know about how things have gone this season for the Los Angeles Rams. They just might be cooked. Matt Stafford, it just might be over for Matt Stafford. I mean, he's in his mid-30s. He's old for a quarterback. Not old for a human being. I'm in my mid-30s. I'm not old. But if I'd played quarterback for the last 15 years, I would feel very old. And I think Matt Stafford is starting to feel pretty old. Saints Rams, that one again in New Orleans. Detroit is at New York. The Giants are laying 3 in that one. That's one of Brendan's best bets for the week on our Sports on 580 picks. You keep waiting for the other shoe to drop with the Giants, but I'm not sure this is going to be the week. The Lions, to me, are just not a team that can beat anybody who's good. They do not, to me, have the ability, the chest, as Les Miles would say, to go beat a team that's good. Chicago's at Atlanta. The Bears are 3-point underdogs in this one. I think they can win this game. Quiet as it's kept. Well, maybe not quietly, because the Bears seem to get a lot of attention nationally. Or maybe that's just me knowing a lot of people from Chicago. But quiet as it's kept, Justin Fields is putting it together. And the reason he's putting it together is because they finally let him use his legs. And he has become as good a dual threat quarterback as there is in the league over the last month or so. And I think they've got the juice to go on the road and beat the Falcons. 3-point line is essentially just Vegas giving a bump to the home team. I think the Bears can win that one outright. That might be my upset special of the week, if such a thing existed. Who says it can't? I just made it up right now. Upset special of the week. Bears Falcons. There it is. Bears over Falcons. Dan Lucero's upset special of the week. The last of the early games is Cleveland at Buffalo at Detroit. Of course, that game has been moved to Ford Field because it is a snowpocalypse presently in Western New York. The Bills could not get to the team facility today. They had to meet via Zoom. So the Bills, to get this clear, they are injury ravaged, though they do get Jordan Poyer back this week, it sounds like. They have also dealt with a team-wide illness. They have also only had 1 day of real practice this week because of the aforementioned illness and today's weather. And it might be tough for them to get to Detroit. They are 7.5-point favorites, but their entire week has been thrown into disarray, unlike Cleveland, who has just said, oh, well, I guess we're going to Detroit now, not Buffalo. Okay, we're still getting on a plane. We're still going to play the Bills. They've had a full normal week of practice. The Browns is 7.5-point underdog. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they can cover that number. I think that game might be close. Also, Buffalo kind of in a funk right now. Not playing great, turning the ball over. That's a fascinating set of circumstances for Buffalo to try and overcome. If they do and they win that game and they are convincing in doing it, that might be the kind of thing that gets them back on the right track. The late games for your enjoyment on Sunday, we will get two of them on television here. Cowboys-Vikings is the national game on Fox. Cowboys are 1.5-point favorites at Minnesota. That should tell you a lot about how much respect and regard Minnesota is getting. As an 8-1 football team coming off of that road win at Buffalo last week, to be home dogs to anybody is interesting. Minnesota's found a way to win close games all season long. But I think I might like Dallas in this spot. I think that spread is right, and Dallas should be favored. I think defensively, they will make it hard for Minnesota's stars. Minnesota, on a week-in, week-out basis, they need their stars to be stars. And if they can get a handle on Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook, I think that's a pretty ordinary team outside of those guys on offense. And I think Dallas has the horses to do that. The other game you will be blessed with on your televisions in the late window on CBS, the Las Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos. You want to talk about a toilet bowl. How unpleasant the vibes are at Mile High Stadium on Sunday. The Broncos are down to a bunch of mailmen and gym teachers playing offensive line and wide receiver. Their quarterback was accused this week publicly by a former player on Denver Sports Talk Radio of calling audibles that were actually Seahawks audibles and confusing his entire teammates, or all his teammates, who, it should be noted, are not Seahawks, because he plays for the Broncos now. That team, hot mess. The Raiders, meanwhile, Josh McDaniels just lost to a TV pundit this week, last week, and then this week, a well-regarded sports reporter from Los Angeles, Bill Plaschke, the LA Times, told the world that the only reason Josh McDaniels is going to keep his job is because Mark Davis is a broke boy, at least in relation to his fellow owners, that the Raiders are cash poor. So things are obviously going great for the Raiders. Somebody has to win that game, which is something that it's fine for me to say. I can say that. I can say, well, somebody's got to win that game. You know who it's not great to hear that from? One of the coaches. And yet, that is exactly, verbatim, word for word, what Nathaniel Hackett said earlier this week at his press conference. Somebody has to win this game. Does that sound like a coach who's going to be the one to go win that game? Because it doesn't to me, even though the Broncos are 2.5-point favorites. Might like the Raiders. Other late game is Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, 3.5-point underdogs at home. They are 2-0 when TJ Watt plays. And if you remember back in week 1, TJ Watt played, and Pittsburgh intercepted Joe Burrow a bunch of times and beat him in Cincinnati. Got a chance to keep it close, even with the struggles the Steelers have had. They're coming off a good win last week, too. So, interesting matchup there, unfortunately. You won't get to watch it. You'll get to watch the Raiders and the Broncos instead. Great, thanks to CBS for that programming decision. And obviously the Chiefs and Chargers are the night game. I don't know how you guys feel about that. You can let me know in the YouTube comments or on the Big O Tires text line. You like all these Sunday night games? Do you like being in the primetime spot, or do you wish the Chiefs would get a run of noon kickoffs? Because I'm kind of leaning in that direction. I'd like to see the Chiefs play at noon for a couple of weeks straight. That would be fine with me. Play early. Be the first game. Don't give everybody the Sunday scaries, and then you've got to worry about you got to sweat a Chiefs game every week. We've already picked that one earlier. If you missed our breakdown in hour 1, Brendan and I, you can find that on the podcast page at 580wibw.com or on the YouTube archive, youtube.com/@sportson580. I will spoil it for you and tell you that both Brendan and I picked the Chiefs and think that they will cover what is currently a 4.5-point spread. That's going to do it for the 4 o'clock hour here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, 5 o'clock hour on a Friday. Let's have fun. Let's get loose with it. We got the Blue Dot of Kansas headlines, lots of stuff to tell you about, including the Chiefs and Chargers final injury reports and some other NFL injury notes, plus rough morning for the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator, and you won't be able to get beer at the World Cup. Sounds like that might be an issue. Plus, my best bets for the weekend, little high school football, sub-state preview, and so much more. That's coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Hang with us here on 580 Sports Talk, 580 WIBW. Let's get it. Final hour of the day, final hour of the week on 580 Sports Talk. Great to have you along. Thanks for tuning in. However, you are listening to our show. If you're hearing us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or on YouTube, youtube.com/@sportson580. Appreciate that you are along and spending your Friday afternoon with us. Really with me, because it's just me the rest of the way. Dan Lucero hanging out with you. Brendan Dworzinski is going to Kansas City. He will have coverage of Washburn men's basketball tonight. The women and men are split up tonight. The women playing at home over on Classic Country 106.9. They get started, I believe, at the bottom of the hour here or near enough to it. And then after that, you will have Washburn men's basketball joined in progress as they take on Rockhurst tonight. So voice of the Ichabod's Jake LeBon has the women's game first, followed by joining in progress the men's game with Brendan on the call out in Kansas City. So that's why he's not here. That's why it's just me here for this final hour of the week. Just me and all of you. And again, appreciate you being a part of the show. You can weigh in on the show in the YouTube comments, the YouTube chat, or you can hit us on the Big O Tires text line, 785-272-9429. Hit me, I guess. Again, it's hard to get away from the royal we when doing this, even solo. But anyway, I got a busy 5 o'clock hour. Lots of things I want to touch on in this hour, and we'll get to as many of them as possible. We'll talk a little high school football. I want to talk a little bit about the World Cup because it'll be underway by the time we're on the air. And Brendan is not a big soccer guy. I am. I'm not going to give you a full preview or anything. I'm just going to talk about it through the prism of the big story of today about the upcoming World Cup. Like, don't worry. I'm not going to go, TED tactics on you and talk about Belgium playing a 4-3-3. No, I'm not going to do that to you. Don't worry about that. I just have some things to say about it. So we'll get there. We'll get to those topics. We'll get to my best bets for the weekend. If you follow me on Twitter, at Dan Lucero Show, you know that in addition to the Sports on 580 picks contest, I have been giving out a little bit extra on Twitter throughout the college and NFL seasons. And I'm on a bit of a hot streak right now. Over the last 4 weeks, my picks have gone 18-6 on the season. I'm 36-24. I've taken a lead in the Sports on 580 standings, but I'm also doing quite well over at my Twitter page as well. So maybe it's time to start tailing your boy if you're into that kind of thing. I've got 6 more picks that are my best bets for this weekend, and I'll spell them all out for you later on this hour. But we begin the 5 o'clock hour, as we always do, with the Blue Dot of Kansas headlines from our friends at Blue Dot of Kansas. This is the coldest day of the fall so far. Did you notice we didn't have fall? Hey, I'm going to talk about a lot about the weather guy. But did you notice that we did not have fall, that we just skipped right to winter? That we didn't have those like nice, crisp, upper 50s, mid 60s kind of days in the fall. Like we just jumped right over that. We went from, it's in the 70s to, now it's in the 40s. We jumped over the fall. We did not have a fall. Fall was like 3 days, and now it's full-blown winter. But anyway, my broader point there is because it is full-blown winter, because it is going to be really cold tonight and tomorrow night in particular, before the temperatures come back a little bit in the greater Topeka area and get back into the 40s and 50s next week, you might want to make sure your furnace is in working order. Just a thought. And the folks at Blue Dot of Kansas will check it out. They'll make repairs if you need them. They'll make sure everything's in working order. They'll service it. They'll maintenance it. Go to their website, blue.kansas.com, not blue.kansas.com. No, blue.kansas.com. That's where you go to see what they can do for you. I'm going to start the Blue Dot of Kansas headlines with a look at the final participation report and the injury report for the Chiefs and the Chargers heading into Sunday Night Football in 2 days. 2 Chiefs have been ruled out for Sunday. Neither Juju Smith-Schuster nor Chris Lamons were able to clear concussion protocol this week, though Lamons was a practice participant on a limited basis today. Neither player cleared the concussion protocol substantially, so they are both out for Sunday. That means the Chiefs are down 2 wide receivers for Sunday's game, with McCole Hardman having been placed on injured reserve yesterday afternoon. He will miss this game and at least the next 3. That's the bad news. Good news is nobody else has an injury designation for the Chiefs, including a pair of players, running back Jerick McKinnon and cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, who have been limited all week. Sneed with a knee and McKinnon with hamstring and shoulder issues. Those players were limited all week in practice, but do not have an injury designation, meaning that they are good to go for Sunday, and that the limited workload in practice was as much about management as anything else. Marquez Valdez-Scantling was a full participant today. He didn't practice Wednesday because he was sick, was limited Thursday, full participant today. MVS will play on Sunday. Isaiah Pacheco and Andrew Wiley were full participants all week, and neither has an injury designation for Sunday. Over to the Chargers. The headliners are their top 2 wide receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Williams has missed the last 2 games. Allen hasn't played since week 2. Both are listed as questionable after being full participants in practice today. They were both limited Wednesday and Thursday. Allen has been dealing with a hamstring injury. Mike Williams has an ankle injury. Both are listed as questionable, and both are very hopeful that they will play on Sunday night. That changes the dynamics for the Chargers passing game, certainly, particularly when it comes to Williams, who has notably had some big-time performances against the Chiefs. In the first half against the Chiefs back in week 2 at Arrowhead Stadium, you'll recall, he looked like a combination of Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. Jerry Moss, presumably, would be what that unholy combination would be called, or Randy Rice, I suppose, whichever you prefer. But he had a great first half against the Chiefs and has had a solid year, but he's been out. He's missed a couple games. Keenan Allen has missed 8 games for the Chargers due to injury. He's not really a deep threat. He's much more of a possession guy, of course. That kind of fits in with what the Chargers have been as a passing attack this year. Much more of a dink and dunk than you'd expect with a quarterback the caliber of Justin Herbert. Anyway, both Williams and Allen are questionable. Kicker Dustin Hopkins, still dealing with his right hamstring injury, was a limited participant today and is doubtful for Sunday. Everyone else practiced in full for the Chargers and does not have an injury designation. That means we will see punter J.K. Scott, who has been ill. Wide receiver DeAndre Carter, wide receiver number 3 for the Chargers. He has been dealing with a rib injury, was limited all week until today. Tight end Gerald Everett, dealing with a groin. He was limited all week, full participant today. Same with Trey Pipkins, the tackle with a knee injury. And linebackers Chris Rumph and Khalil Mack neither have an injury designation. Mack got a veteran rest day on Wednesday. He's fine. No concerns there. Rumph with a knee injury, limited Wednesday, Thursday, full participant on Friday. So that's your injury report for Sunday. And the fascinating thing about the injury report is that Justin Herbert has had a disappointing year by his lofty standards because he hasn't been able to throw the ball down the field at all. And a lot of that has been by design because Joe Lombardi is a very uncreative play caller. But now his 2 most potent wide receiver weapons are back together. First time in a long time that he's had his top 2 wide receiver options. Meanwhile, for the Chiefs, they are without their number 1 wide receiver in Juju Smith-Schuster. And, of course, without McCole Hardman, but that was the case last week. So what does it look like at wide receiver? What did the respective passing games look like on Sunday? The folks in Vegas seem to think, our friends in the desert, seem to think that balance favors the Chargers. Enough so that the betting line this week has moved from Chiefs -7 to Chiefs -4.5. So that is worth noting, and that is worth paying attention to, and that will be one of the major factors when the Chiefs and the Chargers take the turf at SoFi Stadium on Sunday Night Football. Some other NFL injury notes. Los Angeles Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford is out of the concussion protocol and expects to play on Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. The Saints will go again with Andy Dalton, even though Jameis Winston has been getting healthier. Dennis Allen is sticking with Andy Dalton at quarterback. Pittsburgh Steelers expect to have Minkah Fitzpatrick in the lineup. That's a big deal because he had one of those interceptions of Joe Burrow the first time the Steelers and the Bengals played this season. Fitzpatrick had an appendectomy recently, which I can speak from experience. That's not super fun. He had an appendectomy a week ago. He's going to play on Sunday. Let me tell you how different football players are from me. It took everything I had in me to go back to the office 4 days after my appendectomy. And I don't have to tackle anybody. I don't have to run. I don't have to do anything more strenuous than sit here and talk. And it was hard for the week or two after my appendectomy to do that. Minkah Fitzpatrick's going to play in an NFL game a week after an appendectomy. They're just built different, man. Football players, they're just built different. They're not like you and me. Lamar Jackson is sick, but the Baltimore Ravens quarterback expects that he will be able to play on Sunday, dealing with an illness, and just was not able to practice today. But both Jackson and head coach John Harbaugh expect that Jackson will play against Carolina Panthers on Sunday. Big injury note for New England. They are placing defensive tackle Christian Barmore on injured reserve with a knee injury. He had missed the past 3 games. The hope was he was going to play this week, but he appears to have had a setback. He's the top interior pass rusher for that Patriots defense, and he will miss at least the next 4 games. Continuing our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines, we turn to an unfortunate story emerging early this morning. Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator Todd Downing was charged with driving under the influence and speeding early this morning. He went through the intake process at 4:36 a.m., posted bail about 2 hours later. The Titans landed in Nashville following their win over the Green Bay Packers last night at 2:07 a.m., which means there's a 2.5-hour window between the plane landing and Downing getting booked. The NFL has been in contact with the Titans regarding Downing, noting that all league and club personnel, including coaches, are subject to potential discipline when a violation is determined to have been committed. Alcohol is not allowed on the team plane, and it is not allowed at the team facility. This is why, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs came under such great scrutiny after the car accident that Britt Reed was in before the Super Bowl 2 years ago that unfortunately caused significant life-altering injuries for a little girl. The NFL did release a statement as a reminder, not so much a statement for the media's sake, but they did issue a reminder to all 32 clubs. And I am scrolling Twitter trying to find it right now, but it is noteworthy, and I do want to pass it along if I can find it. Here it is. It was a memo sent from Roger Goodell to all 32 NFL teams. In light of recent events, clubs are reminded that league policy prohibits alcoholic beverages, including beer, in the locker rooms, practice or office facilities, or while traveling on team buses or planes at any time during the preseason, regular season, or postseason. This applies to all players, coaches, club personnel, and guests traveling with your team. This policy has been in place for many years. Making alcohol available at club facilities or while traveling creates significant and unnecessary risks to the league, its players, coaches, and others. Violations of this important policy will be taken seriously and will result in significant discipline. Now, I don't know what significant discipline looks like necessarily, but I think we can be honest, be adults, and say most teams are probably flouting that rule at times, especially after a big road win. Probably have a couple of brewskis on a plane. You know, when teams clinch, right, they get to do the champagne, but a couple of beers on the team plane back, that's probably not something that has never happened before last night with the Titans. If indeed that is what happened. But it's hard to imagine it didn't. It's hard to imagine Todd Downing landing at 2:07, getting in his vehicle, then going somewhere else and getting drunk enough to get pulled over and then booked into the local Hooskow 2.5 hours later. So it's not a good look for the Titans. It's really not a good look for Todd Downing, who probably called the best game of his season as an offensive coordinator in that game against the Packers. Just play action the Packers to death. Packers did not have a counter whatsoever. 408 total yards for the Titans was the most in a single game for Tennessee this season. But it's a bad look, and it can happen. And the league does need to crack down, and teams do need to be more responsible about saying, hey, look, we all want to have a good time. We all want to celebrate a big win. We got to wait. We got to do it. We can't do it on company time. And if you're traveling, you're on company time, right? Can't do it on company time, man. Can't have it. Fortunately, Downing was not in any accidents, did not cause any harm to anyone around him, and that is a great relief. Continuing our 580 Sports Talk headlines, speaking of alcohol, World Cup organizers have banned the sale of alcohol around stadiums in Qatar after last-minute showdown talks. The FIFA announced on Friday. So, don't know if you all have been following the story around the World Cup and how soaked in the blood of migrant workers and sports washing this 2022 World Cup in Qatar is. From a moralistic standpoint, this is as disgusting a sporting event as maybe has ever been held, just in terms of what Qatar is willing to do to try and sports wash its reputation globally, and how many people died in the making of all of these venues to host these World Cup games this winter. The fact that it's in winter, because it gets to like 120 degrees in Qatar in the summer. You couldn't do this in the summer. It would not be feasible. You have to do it now. That's why it's happening in the middle of club season in Europe and all over the world, really. But anyway, another fun fact about Qatar is this is a Muslim nation and typically does not exactly jive with having alcohol around, is the most casual way that I am capable of putting it. Anyway, they were going to acquiesce to this point for the World Cup because Budweiser spends a whole lot of money to have its advertisements all over the World Cup. But 2 days before this thing starts, there's been a change of heart. This is what FIFA said in their statement. Following discussions between host country authorities and FIFA, a decision has been made to focus the sale of alcoholic beverages on the FIFA Fan Festival, other fan destinations, and licensed venues, removing the sales points of beer from Qatar's FIFA World Cup 2022 stadium perimeter. So no beer around the stadiums, no beer in the stadiums. But don't worry, you can get a Bud Zero. That was part of the statement from FIFA. There is no impact to the sale of Bud Zero, which will remain available at all Qatar's World Cup stadiums. So it appeared that there was an agreement that FIFA was going to let Budweiser sell beer at the stadiums, around the stadiums, and then Qatar said, hey, let's make those beer tents a little less visible, like publicly visible. Let's kind of keep those on the sly. And now it's actually, we don't want them at all. We do not want them at all. Where that late pressure on FIFA came from? Well, let's just say the Qatari government wields a very big stick. Anyhow, Budweiser responded with a tweet on Twitter earlier today that simply read, well, this is awkward. They apparently would delete it later because I tried to pull it up and it's been deleted. It was embedded in the ESPN story, but that tweet has been deleted. Anyway, a quick broader thought on the World Cup while we're here. It's one of my favorite international sporting events. People across the globe have such passion for soccer, and the World Cup means so much to every nation who is a part of it. And that passion and that verve and that excitement, it spills out onto the field of play. And it makes for great sports. It makes for great drama. It makes for great theater. I don't think you have to be the world's biggest soccer fan to get caught up in the World Cup. I don't think you have to be one of those people like me who will get up early to watch a Premier League match or a match from Italy or Germany or some European country on a Saturday. You don't have to be that invested in the sport to, I think, become invested in the World Cup, particularly with the United States back at the World Cup after missing out in 2018 and coming to the World Cup with the youngest team in the competition. A pretty cool deal. So I think it's easy to get excited about it. But on the flip side, when you know about all of the human rights abuses that occur in Qatar and all of the human rights abuses that went into getting ready for this World Cup and all of the human rights abuses that will take place during the staging of this World Cup, it makes it pretty unsavory. It's sort of like I had a texter from the 785 on the Big O Tires text line that simply texted "Live Golf." Yeah, it kind of feels like that. Where can you forget about the stink of where the money is coming from? Can you put that aside enough to enjoy the sports competition? Is the sports good enough to effectively be sports washing, right? Where you're not in a place where you're thinking about everything else that goes into it and you can just enjoy the sports. And I got to tell you, most sports are. The World Cup, probably it is. Not that I'm going to forget or ignore, again, human rights violations or minimize those human rights violations. But in the end, I don't think it's the kind of thing that is probably going to keep me and a lot of other people, a whole lot of other people, a planet's worth of people, from enjoying the World Cup for what it is, which is a meaningful and popular and exciting global sports competition. I mean, Russia went a whole lot better in 2018, and people still seem to enjoy that World Cup. The Olympics anymore, when they were in Rio, for instance, same kinds of things going on. Now, the Brazilian government, little different than the Qatari government, little different than the Russian government, little different. But the idea of the abuse, the mistreatment of the workers who are being tasked with building the venues and things like that, that's the kind of thing that ought to be arguably front and center and isn't, because we forget about it, because after all, that's soccer. They call it the beautiful game, right? So it will be conflicting, more so than usual, I think, for a lot of people, including myself, to watch this World Cup. But in the end, I think the sports aspect of it will overpower all of the unseemly stuff that goes on in the background. And the part that leaves a pit in your stomach is that's exactly what the nation of Qatar is counting on. And that is what FIFA, while they count their money, is counting on. So, United States plays on Monday. In fact, by the time we come on the air for 580 Sports Talk on Monday, we will know if the United States has won or lost their first World Cup match. I believe they kick off at 1 o'clock on Monday against Wales in their first group stage match. I'll watch it. I'll check it out. Curious to see. I don't know the level of soccer fandom of the 580 Sports Talk audience. I suspect it's not like super high. But if we got some soccer fans out there, let me know if you're going to be checking out the World Cup. Let me know if maybe you would be inclined to check out the World Cup, but the fact that it's in Qatar is just too unsavory. You can't get there. You can't put that out of your mind. I get that. And there's part of me that feels guilty about not being able to do that and just saying, nope, not going to do it, not going to patronize it. That's easy. I can do that with Live Golf, because the 54-hole shotgun start golf exhibitions with a bunch of washed-up dudes, it doesn't do it for me. But the World Cup does it for me as a sports fan. Like, I like the World Cup. But I think we all make there's no morality in capitalism, right? We all make calculations each day to decide which forms of capitalism we're going to participate in and which ones we're not. So the World Cup, yeah, that starts over the weekend. No beer. No beer in the stadiums. No beer outside the stadiums. I wonder if they have a if you leave at halftime, it'd be like Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Can you leave at halftime? Maybe go to your your yurt and enjoy a frosty one, and then come back. If you get off the perimeter of the stadium, can you come back? They have a re-entry policy for the World Cup like they do at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. I had to end it on a joke. It's not really fun to talk about this World Cup, to be completely honest. It is definitely not fun to talk about Qatar in any form or fashion. We're going to take a break here. That wraps up our Blue Dot of Kansas headlines. Again, brought to you by Blue Dot of Kansas. Check them out online. See what they can do for you. blue.kansas.com. We'll step aside for a break. When we come back, it's sub-state night in high school football. Some thoughts on that coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk.
Does your business need quick, competitive financing for heavy machinery, trucks, or other equipment? Currency is here to help. Whether you're financing construction equipment, farm equipment, trucks, trailers, or any other big-ticket item, Currency will automatically find the best rates. Currency facilitates loans for up to $500,000 with repayment terms up to 72 months. It's fast, easy, and free to use. Visit gocurrency.com and apply today.
Variety is the spice of life, and the menu at the T-Box is constantly growing and adding new delicious items for your taste buds to love. The T-Box, located in downtown Topeka on 9th and Kansas, has a full mouth-watering menu served daily, with lunch specials that hit the spot without draining your wallet. And while you're there, enjoy craft beer, wine, and cocktails while you use the industry-leading technology to improve your game on the golf course, where it's always perfect weather. The T-Box, great food and good times. Learn more at thetboxgroup.com.
My right knee was giving me so much problem. Just getting out of a chair and starting to walk was terrible.
Charlie Luiso of Frankfort, Kansas, talked to the doctors at Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center and had stem cell therapy done using his body's own stem cells. And now?
Perfect. It don't give me any problems whatsoever. Can't even forget which knee it was. Stem cell therapy has done me a world of good. I recommend it to anyone.
Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center in Manhattan and Kansas City. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
Do you live in a rural area? And do you find it hard to find high-speed internet service? Then Mercury Broadband has a deal for you. Lock in a low monthly price for 2 years and receive installation and the first month free. With Mercury Broadband, you will have enough speed for your family to surf the web, video chat, stream a movie with no data caps and a price lock guaranteed for 2 years. Visit mercurybroadband.com and get connected today. mercurybroadband.com.
I'm CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg. Travelers ask me all the time about ways to take aches and pains out of travel. The simple answer? Pack a box of Salonpas pain-relieving patches. In a clinical study, people that used these Salonpas patches reported having less pain with improvement in mood, sleep, and the ability to work. 9 out of 10 reported using less or a lot less oral pain medicines. Leave pain at home with Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Hey, listener. Welcome to Limu's Karaoke Lounge, where Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need, and the music never stops. Hit it.
There's an emu with a full-time job. His partner's Doug, but Limu's the heartthrob. Grubs and worms, that's what Limu eats. Gotta fuel up to save you money and hit the streets.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
WIVW Topeka, FM 104.9.
.535 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero flying it solo the rest of the way. Big O Tires text line 785-272-9429. Check us on YouTube, youtube.com/@5 or @sports on 580, excuse me. youtube.com/@ like the @ symbol, shift and 2, sports on 580. Catch a live stream, catch it archived, put it up on your big screen TV. We had a comment in the YouTube chat yesterday about putting us on a 60-inch TV. Maybe wasn't the smartest idea. I'm sure Brendan and I blew out your tuners. But any way that you interact with the show, we appreciate you doing so here on 580 Sports Talk. It is Sub-State Friday night in the state of Kansas. Unfortunately, no high school football tonight here on 580 WIBW. Fortunately, we have K-State women's basketball. How about the Lady Cats for a moment? How about them? An 84-83 win over the number 4 team in the country last night, taking down the Iowa Hawkeyes at Bramlage Coliseum. Less than 24 hours later, ladies will try and rebound. They take on UTRGV. Give. University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, coached by former Pitt State head coach Lane Lord, by the way. If you're an MIAA fan, you probably already knew that connection. But it is the Wildcats and the Vaqueros. 6:30 tip-off at Bramlage tonight. Pre-game coverage starts at 6 o'clock, so right when we're done here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Lots of local angles for tonight's state semifinals. By local, I mean, well, people that can hear the sounds of our voices here on 580. Starting 6A, unbeaten Manhattan taking on Derby. Derby knows how to win this time of year, but Derby's got to do it without their starting quarterback. Brock Zerger broke his leg last week in their win over Washburn Rural, so it'll be Braxton Clark who will be doing the quarterbacking for Derby and probably handing it off to Dylan Edwards a whole bunch. Manhattan already beat Derby this year, 26-23 in overtime in the opener. If they can do it again, they will be heading to the state title game unbeaten. It has been a phenomenal year for Manhattan coach Joe Schartz. 4A, Wamigo's got a chance to get to their first ever state title game. So do their opponents from McPherson. Neither of those programs have ever played for a state championship game. Wamigo has run the rack. They have been dominant. They seem like they're getting better week in and week out. I know they were missing their star, Hayden Oviatt, for the first half of the season. Once he's gotten back, they just seem to have hit another level. They score a ton of points, and they don't give up a whole lot of points. McPherson will probably be about the best offense they faced all year. It will be a test for the Red Raiders, but big one in Boomtown tonight. Wamigo 11-0, McPherson at 10-1. 3A, the Hayden Wildcats, the Holton Wildcats. We were always destined for a part 2, weren't we? I think when we all saw the brackets come out, those of us who pay attention to this stuff, kind of had our eye on Hayden and Holton part 2. The original was a big night for Holton back in week 7. They crushed Hayden 37-13, scored 37 straight points in that game. Now, Hayden made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes in that game. Some turnovers on downs. But that's not a knock. That's not to say that they are the only reason that they lost that game, because Holton is really good. They get in that bar to bone, and you don't know where the ball's going. You just know it's going forward behind a really good offensive line. It's going forward. It's coming at you. The Hayden, of course, they've got a great offensive identity as well. Lots of playmakers, explosive guys. Finn Dunshie's had a great postseason. Jensen Schrickle is one of the most fun players to watch, I think, in our area. Just a super athlete, just a sophomore. Both teams at 10-1. Winner gets Andale. The Big O Tires text line from the 913. Somebody asking, who do you think plays Andale next Saturday? Boy, I don't like to be pigeonholed into predictions, particularly when it comes to programs that are A, local, and B, I have good working relationships with both the head coaches involved. I will simply say this. If Hayden takes better care of the football, I think they have a chance to overturn that Week 7 result. I think that's the biggest key for them. They take care of the ball, and they're able to finish drives on their own terms instead of handing the ball back to Holton, then I think they've got a really, really good chance. Same texter asks, over under 100 total carries by Hayden and Holton. I don't know that they're going to be 100 snaps, but there aren't going to be a lot of passes. That's for sure. If you'd said 70, I would take the over. 100 is a big number. I don't know that either team is going to run. I don't know that it's going to be a game with a whole lot of snaps. I think both teams are going to be content to not necessarily play at a high tempo and just kind of go at their own pace and just run into each other. Just 70 to 80 car accidents in that game. Just boom. John Madden would love it. That's going to be a fun game. That's as good a matchup as there is in the state all year. And then you have, of course, the familiarity, the fact that it's a regular season rematch. Hayden absolutely capable of going on the road and winning, but that Holton defense is awfully tough, and they've got so many talented ball carriers. You just don't know who it's going to be on a night in, night out basis. So that's going to be a really fun one. No prediction. I'm playing Kirk Herbstreit here. I'm playing down the middle. No prediction, but my prediction is that there will be a lot of running plays. I'll give you that one. And then the winner gets Andale. With all due respect to Clay Center, the winner gets Andale. 3A's been the Andale Invitational the last 4 years. It may again be this year, but I'll tell you what, Hayden and Holton are good enough. Whichever team comes out of that one, they'll be battle tested enough to give Andale a game next Saturday. 2A, Sabetha, Nemaha Central. That's a whale of a game. That's, again, familiarity breeding contempt for those Big 7 rivals. Nemaha Central already beat them, and they haven't lost to anybody. But Sabetha played them pretty tough early. That game got away from the Blue Jays in the second half. If they can hang tough through the second half again, they got a chance to go on the road and pull that upset. But, man, Nemaha Central, they're championship tough. You know, so Sabetha, of course. I mean, they had those back-to-back titles before Nemaha Central got theirs. But you get that first one sometimes, and it just kind of seeps into your identity as a football program. That's going to be a fun game. 1A tonight. St. Mary's is at home. Party in Pottawatomie County. 9-2 St. Mary's taking on unbeaten Centralia. Centralia coming off an 8-7 win over Olpe. St. Mary's went on the road last week and smoked St. Mary's Colgan down in Pittsburgh. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I know Colgan had a couple of key injuries. That doesn't explain on its own what the Bears went down there and did. A 36-12 win. They led 20-0 at the half. Game was never close. St. Mary's has been doing that to people. I got to see them 2 weeks ago when they played Troy, and they shut Troy out on that cold and rainy night that we had. And I can tell you this about St. Mary's. Those boys do some hitting. Those boys do some hitting, offensively and defensively. Centralia, proud program, great tradition. First playoff meeting between these two, or first state semifinal playoff meeting between these two since 2009. St. Mary's, I think I would lean in their direction as being favorites just because of how impressive they've been in the playoffs so far. But boy, Centralia, so tough. They know how to win. They've got that mystique about them that they take into this game too. Really, really fun matchup there as well. And then, hey, a shout out to Burlingame playing in the 8-player Division I East Sub-State Final, taking on Little River. Both teams are 10-1. Burlingame's had a heck of a year. That's been a program that's been building to this very gradually under Jeff Slater. And very cool for Burlingame to be here and trying to get back to a state championship game for the first time since 1972. That'd be a pretty big deal. So that one is in Burlingame tonight. Lots of great games. Of course, we'll have the scoreboard show, Kansas Information Network scoreboard show, coming up 10 o'clock tonight here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9 on the Kansas Information Network. Take a break, come back with my best bets for the weekend. I've been giving you winners consistently. I'm going to give you some more when we come back here on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk, rounding third, heading for home on this Friday afternoon. I am Dan Lucero. You can follow me on Twitter while Twitter is still a going concern, at Dan Lucero Show. I'm going to be there when they turn the lights off. I'm not. People are talking about different social medias. I'm not an Instagram guy. I have a face for Twitter, as those of you watching on YouTube can see. I will be the last person to jump the sinking ship if indeed Twitter has to go away. More thoughts on that in the final word. But you can follow me on Twitter at Dan Lucero Show. We have a lot of fun over there. I like interacting with all of you. And every Friday on Twitter, I give you my best bets for the weekend. 3 college games, 3 pro games, my best bets. And my best bets this year have been doing really, really well. I'm 18-6 in the last 4 weeks, and I am 36-24 on the season. So if you've been betting with me, you've turned a tidy little profit. I want to try and keep that going for me and for you. Here are my best bets for the weekend, all lines courtesy of FanDuel. Over in college football on Saturday, it's one of my Sports on 580 show contest picks, TCU and Baylor. Horned Frogs only a 2.5-point favorite. I just don't see Baylor being able to keep up with TCU on offense. I think Baylor's offense is struggling. Blake Shapen, for me, he's not that guy. TCU, I don't think is going to have a letdown coming off of that big win at Texas last week. They're so close to the finish line, so close to unbeaten going into the Big 12 championship game. I think they stay focused and on song, and they get the job done. TCU minus 2.5. My other college picks this week are totals for you. Utah, Oregon. Should be a points fest. It's a Pac-12 game between really good teams. They don't play any defense in the Pac-12. The total here, though, is only 61.5. Some of that is because of concern about Oregon quarterback Bo Nix. He was injured late in their loss to Washington. There's some concern about whether or not he can play. I would still take the over, even if Nix doesn't go, because Oregon can really run the rock. They've got some outstanding running backs. Utah, of course, with Cam Rising running the offensive show, they are always a threat to score a bunch of points. I only really need one team to get to 40 to get over 61.5. Both teams are capable, plenty capable of getting to that number. So give me over 61.5 there. Georgia, Kentucky. The total is 49.5. I don't think Kentucky can do anything against the Georgia defense. I think most teams can't do anything against the Georgia defense. I think Kentucky really can't do anything against the Georgia defense. I think that they are going to absolutely manhandle Will Levis and Chris Rodriguez and keep Kentucky from a big number. Georgia will do what it needs to do on offense. They pull out just enough to win on offense. They might even cover the 22.5, but I'm more comfortable with the total here going under 49.5 in Georgia, Kentucky. On your NFL Sunday, Cleveland and Buffalo. Been a weird week for the Bills. Only one full day of practice as a team. They're going to have some travel difficulties potentially getting to Detroit for a game that was supposed to be a home game. Cleveland hasn't had to deal with any of that. They're getting on a plane. It's just going somewhere different. For that reason, I think Cleveland covers the 7.5-point spread against the Bills. New England and the Jets. The Patriots have beaten the Jets 13 straight times. All of them have been by more than 3 points. So I'll lay 3 in the hook with the Patriots, and I think that they hold the Jets down, maybe even in single digits scoring-wise. Bill Belichick loves to torment the Jets, and I think he'll do it again. And lastly, I've been singing this song all season long. Denver Bronco unders are the way to go. Raiders, Broncos, the total is 41.5. These two scored a combined 55 points the first time they played. Raiders 32, Broncos 23. What's different now? A crisis of confidence for the Raiders, who's got no healthy targets other than Devontae Adams for Derek Carr to throw to, and they're going up against a very good Denver defense. Denver's offense is ravaged by injuries. They're down their top 2 wide receivers. They're down a whole bunch of starting offensive linemen, and Russell Wilson still looks completely washed. That game is not getting to that number. Under 41.5 in Raiders Broncos. Those are my best bets of the weekend, and now is a perfect time, if you want to play those best bets, to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. It's free bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just sign up with my promo code Lucero. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, the money line, The point spreads, player props, same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts. It's always fun to play every single day on the app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So sign up today with my promo code Lucero for your no-sweat first bet. That's Lucero. Make every moment more this season with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You must be 21 and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable free bets. It expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. Back to wrap up the week with the final word next here on 580 Sports Talk.
One more thing. In conclusion, you better wrap it up.
Wrapping up, walking off this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Make this quick. It feels like Twitter might be in its final days. Trust fund baby Elon Musk, and the emphasis on baby when I refer to that oatmeal for brains, is on the verge of essentially ruining Twitter and making it unusable. And there is a very realistic chance that at sometime very soon, the app will cease to function in a way that makes it a worthwhile social media platform. Now, nothing on the internet stays gold forever. And I've always sort of expected that Twitter would go away at some point, but still the imminent demise, at least that's how it feels, of Twitter still feels pretty sad. So while you can, give me a follow on Twitter at Dan Lucero Show. Follow all of us on Twitter at Sports on 580. It'll be a fun place to hang out as long as it's still there. And hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I've misjudged the situation and the thing survives. But it's about to get stress tested by NFL Sunday and the World Cup. And nobody works in tech support for them anymore. So could be some bad days ahead for Twitter. But let's let the good times roll while we still got them. And follow me along at Dan Lucero Show. That's going to do it for the program today. Washburn basketball over on Classic Country 106.9. K-State women's basketball coming up here at the top of the hour with pregame coverage. We are back with you on Monday to recap the sports weekend. For Brendan Dworzinski, I'm Dan Lucero. This was 580 Sports Talk.